Genesis, chapter 1. In the beginning God made the heavens and the earth. But the earth was empty and unformed, and darkness was over the abyss, and the wind of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided between the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning, day 1. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the water, and let it be a division between water and water." And it was so. And God made the expanse, and divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven, and God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning, day 2. And God said, "Let the water which is under the heaven be collected into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And the water which was under the heaven was collected into its places, and the dry land appeared. And God called the dry land earth, and the gatherings of the waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring out the herb of grass bearing seed according to its kind and according to its likeness, and the fruit tree bearing fruit whose seed is in it, according to its kind on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought out the herb of grass bearing seed according to its kind and according to its likeness, and the fruit tree bearing fruit whose seed is in it, according to its kind on the earth. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, day 3. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heaven to give light upon the earth, to divide between day and night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for light in the expanse of the heaven, so as to shine upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light for regulating the day, and the lesser light for regulating the night. God made the stars also. And God placed them in the expanse of the heaven, so as to shine upon the earth, and to regulate day and night, and to divide between the light and the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, day 4. And God said, "Let the waters bring out reptiles having life, and winged creatures flying above the earth in the expanse of heaven." And it was so. And God made great sea dragons, and every living creature, which the waters brought out according to their kinds, and every creature that flies with wings according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the creatures that fly be multiplied on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, day 5. And God said, "Let the earth bring out the living creature according to its kind, quadrupeds and reptiles and wild beasts of the earth according to their kind." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, livestock according to their kinds, and all the creeping thing of the earth according to their kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make mankind according to our image and likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the flying creatures of heaven, and over the cattle and all the earth, and over all the reptiles that creep on the earth." And God made man in his own image, made he him. Male and female made he them. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the seas and flying creatures of heaven, and all the cattle and all the earth, and all the reptiles that creep on the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given to you every seed-bearing herb sowing seed which is upon all the earth, and every tree which has in itself the fruit of seed that is sown, to you it will be for food. And to all the wild beasts of the earth, and to all the flying creatures of heaven, and to every reptile creeping on the earth, which has in itself the breath of life, even every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw all the things that he had made, and, behold, they were very good. And there was evening and there was morning, day 6. Chapter 2. And the heavens and the earth were finished, and the entirety of the cosmos of them. And God finished in day 6 his works which he caused, and he ceased on day 6 from all his works which he established. And God blessed day 7, and set it apart, because in it he ceased from all his works which God began to do. This is the book of the origin of heaven and earth, when they came into existence, in the day in which Yahuwah God made the heaven and the earth, before any bush of the field was in the earth, and before any plant of the field had grown. For Yahuwah God had not caused it to rain on the earth, for God had not rained on the earth, and there was not a man to cultivate the ground. But there ascended a spring out of the earth, and watered the whole face of the earth.
And Yahuwah God formed the man of dust talking from the earth, and breathed upon his face the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. Yahuwah God planted the paradise of Eden to the east, and he put the man whom he had formed there. And Yahuwah God caused to grow out of the earth every tree beautiful to the eye and good for food, and the tree of life in the midst of paradise, and also the tree of learning the knowledge of good and evil. And a river proceeds out of Eden to water the garden, there it divides itself into 4 heads. The name of the one, Pishon, this it is which encircles the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good, there also is bdellium and onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon, this it is which encircles the whole land of Ethiopia. And the third river is that which flows out over against the Assyrians. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And Yahuwah God took the man whom he had formed, and placed him in paradise of Eden, to cultivate and keep it. And Yahuwah God gave a charge to Adam, saying, Of every tree which is in paradise you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you will not eat, but in the day you eat of it, you will surely die. And Yahuwah God said, It is not good that the man should be alone, let us make for him a help suitable to him. And Yahuwah God formed yet farther out of the earth all the wild beasts of the field, and all the birds of the sky, and he brought them to Adam, to see what he would call them, and whatever Adam called any living creature, that was the name of it. And Adam gave names to all the cattle, and to every flying creature of heaven, and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a help like to himself. And Yahuwah God brought a trance upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and filled up the flesh instead thereof. And Yahuwah God formed the rib which he took from Adam into a woman, and brought her to Adam. And Adam said, This now is bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh, she will be called woman, because she was taken out of her husband. Therefore will a man leave his father and his mother, and will cleave to his woman, and they two will be one flesh. And the two were naked, both Adam and his woman, and were not ashamed. Chapter 3. Now the serpent was the more shrewd of all the beasts on earth, which Yahuwah God made, and the serpent said to the woman, Is it true God said, Eat not of every tree of paradise? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of paradise, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of paradise, God said, You will not eat of it, neither will you touch it, or else you die. And the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die. For God knew that in the day you should eat of it your eyes would be opened, and you would be as gods, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, and having taken of its fruit she ate, and she gave to her husband also with her, and they ate. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they perceived that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made loincloths for themselves. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah God walking in paradise in the afternoon, and both Adam and his woman hid themselves from the face of Yahuwah God in the midst of the trees of paradise. And Yahuwah God called Adam and said to him, Adam, where are you? And he said to him, I heard your voice as you walked in paradise, and I feared because I was naked and I hid myself. And God said to him, Who told you that you were naked, unless you have eaten of the tree concerning which I charged you of it alone not to eat? And Adam said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I ate. And Yahuwah God said to the woman, Why have you done this? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me and I ate. And Yahuwah God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle, and all the wild beasts of the earth, on your breast and belly you will go, and you will eat earth all the days of your life. And I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, he will crush your head, and you will crush his heel. And to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your pains and your groanings, in pain you will bring out children, and your submission will be to your husband, and he will rule over you. And to Adam he said, Because you have heeded to the voice of your woman, and ate from the tree of which I gave charge to you, saying, This tree alone you are not to eat from, but you ate, cursed is the ground in your labors, in pain will you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles will it bring to you, and you will eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face will you eat your bread until you return to the earth out of which you were taken, for earth you are, and to earth you will return. And Adam called the name of his woman Eve, because she was the mother of all living. And Yahuwah God made for Adam and his woman garments of skin, and clothed them. And God said, Behold, Adam has become as one of us, to know good and evil, and now if perhaps at any time he stretch out his hand, and take of the tree of life and eat, and so he will live forever. So Yahuwah God sent him out of the paradise of Eden to cultivate the ground out of which he was taken. And he cast out the man and caused him to dwell over against the paradise of Eden, and stationed cherubs and the fiery sword that turns about to keep the way of the tree of life. Chapter 4. And Adam knew Eve his woman, and she conceived and bore Cain and said, I have gained a son from God. And she again bore his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And it was after some time that Cain brought of the fruits of the earth a sacrifice to Yahuwah. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his sheep, and the fattest of his sheep, and God looked upon Abel and his gifts, but Cain and his sacrifices he regarded not. And Cain was exceedingly sorrowful, and he was angry. And Yahuwah God said to Cain, Why have you become very sorrowful, and why are you angry? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin crouches at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. And Cain said to Abel his brother, Let us go out into the field. And it came to pass that, when they were in the field, Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And Yahuwah God said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? And Yahuwah said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me out of the ground. And now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you cultivate the earth, then it will not continue to give its strength to you. You will be groaning and trembling on the earth. And Cain said to Yahuwah God, My crime is too great for me to be forgiven. If you drive me out this day from the face of the earth, I will be hidden from your presence, and I will be groaning and trembling upon the earth. Then it will be that anyone that finds me will kill me. And Yahuwah God said to him, Not so, anyone that slays Cain will suffer sevenfold vengeance. And Yahuwah God set a mark upon Cain, that anyone finding him might not slay him. So Cain went out from the presence of God, and dwelt in the land of Nod over against Eden. And Cain knew his woman, and having conceived she bore Enoch, and he built a city, and he named the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mahajal, and Mahajal begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech. And Lamech took to himself 2 women, the name of the one was Adah, and the name of the second Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal, he was the father of those that dwell in tents, feeding cattle. And the name of his brother was Jubal, he it was who invented the psaltery and harp. And Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain, he was a smith, a manufacturer both of brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his women, Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, you women of Lamech, consider my words, because I have slain a man to my sorrow, and a youth to my grief. Because vengeance has been exacted 7 times on Cain's behalf, on Lamech's it will be 70 times 7. And Adam knew Eve his woman, and she conceived and bore a son, and called his name Seth, saying, For God has raised up to me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And Seth had a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to blaspheme Yahuwah by name. Chapter 5. This is the genealogy of men in the day in which God made Adam. In the image of God he made him, male and female he made them, and blessed them, and he called their name Adam, in the day in which he made them. And Adam lived 230 years, and begot a son after his own form, and after his own image, and he called his name Seth. And the days of Adam, which he lived after he fathered Seth, were 700 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Adam which he lived were 930 years, and he died. Now Seth lived 205 years, and begot Enos. And Seth lived after he fathered Enos 707 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 190 years, and begot Canaan. And Enos lived after he fathered Canaan 715 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 170 years, and he begot Mahajal. And Canaan lived, after he fathered Mahajal, 740 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahajal lived 165 years, and he begot Jared. And Mahajal lived after he fathered Jared 730 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahajal were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and begot Enoch. And Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 165 years, and begat Methuselah. And Enoch was well-pleasing to God, after he fathered Methuselah 300 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch was well-pleasing to God, and was not found, because God transported him. And Methuselah lived 167 years, and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he fathered Lamech 802 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah which he lived were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 188 years, and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This one will cause us to cease from our works, and from the toils of our hands, and from the earth, which Yahuwah God has cursed. And Noah was 500 years old, and he begot 3 sons, Shem. And Lamech lived after he fathered Noah 565 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 753 years, and he died. Ham and Japheth. Chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to be numerous upon the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and took to themselves women of all whom they chose. And Yahuwah God said, My spirit will certainly not remain among these men forever, because they are flesh, but their days will be 120 years. Now the Nephilim were upon the earth in those days, and after that when the sons of God would habitually procreate with the daughters of men, they bore children to them. Those were the Nephilim of old, the men of renown. And Yahuwah God having seen that the wicked actions of men were multiplied upon the earth, and that everyone in his heart was intently brooding over evil continually, then God regretted that he had made man upon the earth, and he considered it deeply. And God said, I will blot out man whom I have made from the face of the earth, even man with cattle, and reptiles with flying creatures of the sky, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found grace before Yahuwah God. And these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, being perfect in his generation. Noah was well-pleasing to God. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But the earth was corrupted before God, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And Yahuwah God saw the earth, and it was corrupted, because all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And Yahuwah God said to Noah, Time of all men is before me, because the earth has been filled with iniquity by them. Behold, I destroy them and the earth. For that reason, make yourself an ark of 4-cornered timber. You will make the ark nested with compartments, and you will pitch the inside and outside with tar. And thus will you make the ark, 300 cubits the length of the ark, and 50 cubits the breadth, and 30 cubits the height of it. Put a roof on the ark, and in a cubit above you will finish it. Put a door on the side of the ark, with ground, 2nd and 3rd stories you will make it. And behold, I bring a flood of water upon the earth, to destroy all flesh in which is the breath of life under heaven, and everything upon the earth will die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter into the ark, and your sons and your women, and your sons' wives with you. And of all cattle, and of all reptiles, and of all wild beasts, even of all flesh, you will bring by pairs of all, into the ark, that you may feed them. Male and female they will be. Of all winged birds after their kind, and of all cattle after their kind, and of all reptiles creeping upon the earth after their kind, pairs of all will be maintained with you, male and female. And you will take to yourself of all of the food which you eat, and you will gather them to yourself, and it will be for you, and for them to eat. And Noah did all things, whatever Yahuwah God commanded him, so did he. Chapter 7. And Yahuwah God said to Noah, Enter you and all your family into the ark, for I see that you are righteous before me in this generation. And of the clean cattle take to you by 7s, male and female. And of the unclean cattle by pairs, male and female. And of clean flying creatures of the sky, by 7s, male and female, and of all unclean flying creatures by pairs, male and female, to maintain seed on all the earth. For when 7 days is past, I will bring rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out every offspring which I have made from the face of all the earth. And Noah did all things Yahuwah God commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old, when the flood of water came upon the earth. And then Noah and his sons and his woman, and his sons' wives with him went into the ark, because of the flood water. And of clean flying creatures and of unclean flying creatures, and of clean cattle and of unclean cattle, and of all things that creep upon the earth, pairs went into Noah into the ark, male and female, as God commanded Noah. And it came to pass after the 7 days, that the water of the flood came upon the earth. In the 600th year of the life of Noah, in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, on this day all the fountains of the abyss were broken up, and the floodgates of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that very day entered Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, the sons of Noah, and the woman of Noah, and the 3 wives of his sons with him into the ark. And all the wild beasts after their kind, and all cattle after their kind, and every reptile moving itself on the earth after its kind, and every flying bird after its kind, they entered with Noah into the ark, 2 by 2, male and female of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. And they that entered went in male and female of all flesh, as God commanded Noah, and Yahuwah God shut the ark outside of him. And the flood was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and the water abounded greatly, and bore up the ark, and it was lifted on high from off the earth. And the water prevailed, and abounded exceedingly upon the earth, and the ark was borne upon the water. And the water prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and covered all the high mountains which were under heaven. The water prevailed 15 cubits above all the high mountains. And all flesh died, that moved upon the earth, of flying creatures and cattle, and of wild beasts, and every reptile moving upon the earth, and every man. And all things which have the breath of life, and whatever was on the dry land, died. And God blotted out every offspring which was upon the face of the earth, both man and beast, and reptiles, and birds of the sky, and they were blotted out from the earth. And Noah was left alone, and those with him in the ark. And the water was raised over the earth 150 days. Chapter 8. And God remembered Noah, and all the wild beasts, and all the cattle, and all the birds, and all that creeped, as many as were with him in the ark. And God brought a wind upon the earth, and the water abated. And the fountains of the deep were closed up, and the floodgates of heaven, and the rain from heaven was withheld. And the water subsided, and was going off the earth, and after 150 days the water was diminished, and the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 27th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat. And the water continued to decrease until the 10th month. And in the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, the heads of the mountains were seen. And it came to pass after 40 days Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent out a raven, and it went out, but did not return until the water was dried from off the earth. So he sent a dove after it to see if the water had ceased from off the earth. And the dove, not having found rest for her feet, returned to him into the ark, because the water was on all the face of the earth. So he stretched out his hand and took her, and drew her into the ark to himself. And having waited yet 7 more days, he again sent the dove out from the ark. And the dove returned to him in the evening, and had a sprig, an olive leaf in her mouth. And Noah knew that the water had ceased from off the earth. And having waited yet 7 other days, he again sent out the dove, and she did not return to him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year of the life of Noah, in the 1st month, on the 1st day of the month, the water subsided from off the earth. And Noah opened the covering of the ark which he had made, and he saw that the water had subsided from the face of the earth. And in the 2nd month the earth was dried, on the 27th day of the month. And Yahuwah God spoke to Noah, saying, Come out from the ark, you and your woman and your sons wives with you. And all the wild beasts as many as are with you, and all flesh both of birds and beasts, and every reptile moving upon the earth, bring out with you, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah came out, and his woman and his sons wives with him. And all the wild beasts and all the cattle and every bird, and every reptile creeping upon the earth after their kind, came out of the ark. God's covenant with Noah. And Noah built an altar to Yahuwah, and took of all clean beasts, and of all clean birds, and offered a whole burnt offering upon the altar. And Yahuwah God smelled the scent of a pleasant aroma, and Yahuwah God, having considered, said, I will not any more curse the earth, because of the works of men, because the imagination of man clings to wicked things from his youth. I will not therefore any more attack all living flesh as I have done. All the days of the earth, seed and harvest, cold and heat, summer and spring, day and night will not be caused to cease. Chapter 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Increase and multiply, and fill the earth, and have dominion over it. And the fear and trembling of you will be upon all the wild beasts of the earth, on all the birds of the sky, and on all things moving upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. I have placed them under your power. And every creeping thing which is living will be to you for meat. I have given all things to you as the green herbs. But flesh with lifeblood you will not eat. And for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. From every beast I will require it, and from man. From his fellow man I will require a reckoning for the life of man. He that sheds man's blood, instead of that blood, will his own be shed, for in the image of God I made man. But you be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and have dominion over it. And God spoke to Noah, and to his sons with him, saying, And behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature with you, of birds and of beasts, and with all the wild beasts of the earth, as many as are with you, of all that come out of the ark. And I will establish my covenant with you, and all flesh will not any more die by the water of the flood, and there will no more be a flood of water to destroy all the earth. And Yahuwah God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I set between me and you, and between every living creature which is with you for perpetual generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it will be for a sign of covenant between me and the earth. And it will be when I gather clouds upon the earth, that my bow will be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you, and between every living soul in all flesh, and there will no longer be water for a deluge, so as to blot out all flesh. And my bow will be in the cloud, and I will look to remember the everlasting covenant between me and the earth, and between every living soul in all flesh, which is upon the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant, which I have made between me and all flesh, which is upon the earth. Now the sons of Noah which came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was father of Canaan. These three are the sons of Noah, of these were men scattered over all the earth. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine, and was drunk, and was naked in his house. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and he went out and announced it to his two brothers outside. And Shem and Japheth, having taken a garment, put it on both their backs and went in backwards, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their face was turned away, so they did not see the nakedness of their father. And Noah sobered up from the wine, and knew all that his younger son had done to him. And he said, Cursed be the servant Canaan, a slave will he be to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be Yahuwah God of Shem, and Canaan will be his bond servant. May God enlarge Japheth's territory, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Chapter 10. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth are Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal-Cain, Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer are Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan are Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodonam. From these were the islands of the nations divided in their land, each according to his fjord, in their tribes and in their nations. The sons of Ham are Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush are Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ramah, Sabdika. The sons of Ramah are Sheba and Eden. And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a Nephilim upon the earth. He was a Nephilim, a hunter with hounds before Yahuwah God, therefore they say, as Nimrod the Nephilim, a hunter with hounds before Yahuwah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh, cities in the land of Shinar. Out of that land came Assyria, and he built Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth in the midst of Calah, and Resen, which is between Nineveh and the great city. And Mizraim is the patriarch of the Ludites, Anamites, Lehabites, Naphtuhites, Pathrusites, Casluhites, from whom the Philistines came, and the Caphtorites. And Canaan begot Sidon his firstborn, Heth, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, the Sinites, the Arvadites, the Zemarites, and Hamathites, and after this the tribes of the Canaanites were dispersed. The borders of the Canaanites went from Sidon until one comes to Jer and Gaza, then until one comes to Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, and as far as Lasha. These were the sons of Ham and their tribes according to their fjord, in their countries, and in their nations. And Shem, whose older brother is Japheth, is the patriarch of all the sons of Heber. The sons of Shem are Elam, Asser, Arphaxad, Lud, Aram, and Canaan. And sons of Aram are Uz, Hul, Jether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begot Canaan, and Canaan begot Salah, and Salah begot Heber. And to Heber were born two sons, one is named Peleg, because in his days the earth was divided, and the name of his brother is Joktan. And Joktan begot Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadaram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimal, Sheba, Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling is from Mesha, till one comes to Sephirah mountain in the east. These were the sons of Shem in their tribes, according to their fjord, in their countries, and in their nations. These are the tribes of the sons of Noah, according to their generations, according to their nations. Of them were the islands of the nations scattered over the earth after the flood. Chapter 11. And all the earth was one lip, and there was one language to all. And it came to pass as they moved from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And a man said to his neighbor, Come, let us make bricks, and bake them with fire. And the brick was to them for stone, and their mortar was asphalt. And they said, Come, let us build to ourselves a city and tower, whose top will be to heaven, and let us make to ourselves a name, before we are scattered abroad upon the face of all the earth. And Yahuwah came down to see the city and the tower, which the sons of men built. And Yahuwah said, Behold, there is one race, and one lip of all, and they have begun to do this, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Come, let us go down there to confound their tongue, that they may not hearken each one to the voice of the neighbor. From there, Yahuwah scattered them over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city and the tower. On account of this, it is named confusion, because there Yahuwah confounded the languages of all the earth, and from there Yahuwah scattered them upon the face of all the earth. And these are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old when he begot Arphaxad, the second year after the flood. And Shem lived, after he had begotten Arphaxad, 500 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Arphaxad lived 135 years, and begot Canaan. And Arphaxad lived after he had begotten Canaan, 400 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Canaan lived 130 years, and begot Salah, and Canaan lived after he had begotten Salah, 330 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Salah lived 130 years, and begot Heber. And Salah lived, after he had begotten Heber, 330 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Heber lived 134 years, and begot Peleg. And Heber lived, after he had begotten Peleg 270 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Peleg lived 130 years, and begot Reu. And Peleg lived, after he had begotten Reu, 209 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Reu lived 132 years, and begot Serug. And Reu lived after he had begotten Serug, 207 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Serug lived 130 years, and begot Nahor. And Serug lived, after he had begotten Nahor, 200 years, and begot sons and daughters, and died. And Nahor lived 179 years, and begot Terah. And Nahor lived, after he had begotten Terah, 125 years, and begot sons and daughters, and he died. And Terah lived 70 years, and begot Abram, and Nahor, and Haran. And these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram and Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. And Haran died in the presence of Terah his father, in the land in which he was born, in the country of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took to themselves wives. The name of the woman of Abram was Sarai, and the name of the woman of Nahor is Milcah, who is the daughter of Haran, who is the father of both Milcah and Iscah. And Sarai was barren, because she had not borne children. Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran the son of his son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, the woman of Abram his son, and led them out of the land of the Chaldees, to go into the land of Canaan, and they came as far as Haran, and he dwelt there. And all the days of Terah in the land of Haran were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Chapter 12. And Yahuwah said to Abram, Go out of your land and out of your kindred, and out of the house of your father, and come into the land which I will show you. And I will make of you great Gentiles, and I will bless you and magnify your name, and you will be blessed. And I will bless those that bless you, and curse those that curse you, and in you will all the tribes of the earth be blessed. And Abram went as Yahuwah spoke to him, and Lot departed with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he went out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his woman, and Lot the son of his brother, and all their possessions, as many as they had, and every soul which they had got in Haran, and they went out to go into the land of Canaan. And Abram traversed the land lengthwise as far as the place Shechem the high oak, and the Canaanites inhabited that land. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram, and said to him, I will give this land to your seed. And Abram built an altar there to Yahuwah, who appeared to him. And he departed to the mountain eastward of Bethel, and there he pitched his tent in Bethel near the sea, and hight toward the east. There he built an altar to Yahuwah, and called on the name of Yahuwah. And Abram departed, and went and encamped in the wilderness. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to stay a while there, because the famine prevailed in the land. And it came to pass when Abram drew near to enter into Egypt, Abram said to Sarai his woman, I know that you are a fair woman. It will come to pass then that when the Egyptians will see you, they will say, This is his woman, and they will slay me, but they will save you alive. Therefore say, I am his sister, that it may be well with me on account of you, and my soul will live because of you. And it came to pass, when Abram entered into Egypt, the Egyptians having seen his woman, that she was exceedingly beautiful, that the princes of Pharaoh saw her, and praised her to Pharaoh, and brought her into the house of Pharaoh. And they treated Abram well on her account, and he had sheep, and calves, and donkeys, and male servants, and female servants, and mules, and camels. And God afflicted Pharaoh with great and severe afflictions, and his house, because of Sarai, Abram's woman. And Pharaoh called Abram, saying, What is this you have done to me, that you did not tell me that she was your woman? Why did you say, She is my sister? What if I took her for a woman to myself? Behold, your woman is before you, take her and go away quickly. And Pharaoh gave charge to his men concerning Abram, to join in sending him and his woman away, and all that he had. Chapter 13. Abram left Egypt going south. He took his woman and all his possessions with him, as well as Lot. And Abram was very rich in cattle, silver and gold. And he went to the place from where he came, into the wilderness as far as Bethel, as far as the place where his tent was before, between Bethel and Hai, to the place of the altar, which he built there at first, and Abram there called on the name of Yahuwah. And Lot who went out with Abram had sheep, oxen, and tents. And the land was not large enough for them to live together, because their possessions were great, and the land was not large enough for them to live together. And there was a strife between the cattlemen of Abram's cattle, and the cattlemen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanites and the Perizzites then inhabited the land. And Abram said to Lot, Let there not be a strife between me and you, and between my cattlemen and your cattlemen, for we are brothers. Lo, is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right, and if you go to the right, I will go to the left. And Lot, having lifted up his eyes, observed all the country around Jordan, that it was all watered before God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah as the garden of Yahuwah, and as the land of Egypt, until you come to Zor. And Lot chose for himself all the country around Jordan, and Lot went from the east, and they were separated each from his brother. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan. And Lot dwelt in a city of the neighboring people, and pitched his tent in Sodom. But the men of Sodom were evil, and exceedingly sinful before God. And God said to Abram after Lot was separated from him, Look up with your eyes, and behold from the place, where you now are northward and southward, and eastward and seaward, for all the land which you can see, I will give it to you and to your seed forever. And I will make your seed like the dust of the earth. If anyone is able to number the dust of the earth, then will your seed be numbered. Arise and walk the land, both in the length of it, and in the breadth, for to you will I give it, and to your seed forever. And Abram, having removed his tent, came and dwelt by the oak of Mamre, which was in Hebron, and he there built an altar to Yahuwah. Chapter 14. And it came to pass in the reign of Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, that Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations, made war with Bera king of Sodom, and with Bersha king of Gomorrah, and with Shinar king of Admah, and with Shemeber king of Zeboim and the king of Bela, this is Zor. All these met with one consent at the Salt Valley, this is now the Sea of Salt. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and the 13th year they revolted. And in the 14th year came Kedorlaomer, and the kings who were his allies, and cut to pieces the Nephilim and Ashtoreth Karnaim, and strong nations with them, and the Emites in the city Save, and the Horites in the mountains of Seir, to the turpentine tree of El Paran, which is in the desert. And having turned back they came to the well of judgment, this is Kadesh, and they cut in pieces all the princes of Amalek, and the Amorites dwelling in Hazaz and Tamar. And the king of Sodom went out, and the king of Gomorrah, and king of Admah, and king of Zeboim, and king of Bela, this is Zor, and they set themselves in array against them for war in the Salt Valley, against Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations, and Amraphel king of Shinar. And Arioch king of Elasar, the 4 kings battled the 5. Now the Salt Valley consists of slime pits. And the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah fled, and they fell in there, and they that were left fled to the mountain country. And they took all the cavalry of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their provisions, and departed. And they took also Lot the son of Abram's brother, and his belongings, and departed, for he dwelt in Sodom. And one of them that had been rescued came and told Abram the Hebrew, who dwelt by the oak of Mamre. The Amorite is the brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Onan, who were allies by treaty with Abram. And Abram, having heard that Lot his nephew had been taken captive, numbered his own native-born servants 318, and pursued after them as far as Dan. And he divided his forces, and came upon them by night, he and his servants, and he struck them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. And he recovered all the stolen property in Sodom, and he recovered Lot his nephew, and all his belongings, and the women and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him, after he returned from the slaughter of Kedorlaomer, and the kings with him, to the valley of Shaveh. This was the plain of the kings. And Melchizedek king of Salem brought out loaves and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed Abram, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, who made heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God who delivered your enemies into your power. And Abram gave him the tithe of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the men, and take the horses to yourself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I will stretch out my hand to Yahuwah the Most High God, who made the heaven and the earth, that I will not take from all your goods from a string to a shoe latchet, if perhaps you should say, I have made Abram rich. Except what things the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men that went with me, Eshcol, Onan, Mamre, these will take their portion. Chapter 15. And after these things the word of Yahuwah came to Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I will shield you, your reward will be exceedingly great. And Abram said, Master, O Yahuwah, what will you give me? Seeing I am wasting away childless, but the son of Eliezer my native-born maidservant, this Eliezer of Damascus is my heir. Then Abram added, Since you have given me no seed, my native-born servant will succeed me. And immediately there was a voice of Yahuwah saying to him, This will not be your heir, but he that will come out of you will be your heir. And he brought him out and said to him, Look up now to heaven, and count the stars, if you will be able to number them fully. And he said, Thus will your seed be. And Abram believed God, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am God, that brought you out of the land of the Chaldeans, so as to give you this land to inherit. And he said, Master, O Yahuwah, how will I know that I will inherit it? And he said to him, Take for me a heifer in her 3rd year, and a doe goat in her 3rd year, and a ram in his 3rd year, and a dove and a pigeon. So he took to himself all these, and divided them down the middle, and set them facing one another, but the birds he did not divide. And birds of prey came down upon the bodies, even upon the divided parts of them, but Abram sat down with them. And before sunset a trance fell upon Abram, and lo, a fear of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said to Abram, You will surely know that your seed will be foreigners in a land not their own, and they will enslave them, and afflict them, and humble them 400 years. And the nation whom they will serve I will judge, and after this they will come out with much substance. But you will depart to your fathers in peace, nourished in a good old age. And in the 4th generation they will return here, for the sins of the Amorites are not yet filled up, even until now. And when the sun was about to set, there was a flame, and behold a smoking furnace and lamps of fire, which passed between these divided pieces. In that day Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your seed I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates. The Kenites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Chapter 16. And Sarai the woman of Abram bore him no children, but she had an Egyptian maidservant, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, Behold, Yahuwah has restrained me from bearing, therefore enter into my maidservant, so that I may have children for myself through her. And Abram regarded the voice of Sarai. So Sarai the woman of Abram took Hagar the Egyptian her handmaid after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram her husband as a woman to him. And he went into Hagar. When she conceived and saw that she was with child, she dishonored her mistress before her. And Sarai said to Abram, I am injured by you, I gave my handmaid into your bosom, and when I saw that she was with child, I was dishonored before her. The Yahuwah judge between me and you. And Abram said to Sarai, Behold, your handmaid is in your hands, use her as it may seem good to you. And Sarai afflicted her, and she fled from her face. And an angel of Yahuwah found her by the fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain on the way to Shur. And the angel of Yahuwah said to her, Hagar, Sarah's maid, where are you coming from, and where do you go? And she said, I am fleeing from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of Yahuwah said to her, Return to your mistress, and humble yourself under her hands. And the angel of Yahuwah said to her, I will surely multiply your seed, and it will not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of Yahuwah said to her, Behold, you are with child, and will bear a son, and call his name Ismail, for Yahuwah has seen your humiliation. He will be a wild man, his hands against all, and the hands of all against him, and he will dwell in the presence of all his brothers. And she called the name of Yahuwah God who spoke to her, You are God who can see me. For she said, For I have openly seen him that appeared to me. Therefore she called the well of him whom I have openly seen. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore a son to Abram, and Abram called the name of his son which Hagar bore to him, Ismail. And Abram was 86 years old, when Hagar bore Ismail to Abram. Chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am your God, be well-pleasing before me, and be blameless. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell upon his face, and God spoke to him, saying, And I, behold, my covenant is with you, and you will be a father of a multitude of nations. And your name will no more be called Abram, but your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. And I will increase you very exceedingly, and I will make Gentiles of you, and kings will come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between you, and your seed after you, to their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be your God, and the God of your seed after you. And I will give to you, and to your seed after you the land where you reside now, even all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be to them a God. And God said to Abraham, You also will fully keep my covenant, you and your seed after you for their generations. And this is the covenant which you will fully keep between me and you, and between your seed after you for their generations. Every male of you will be circumcised. And you will be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it will be for a sign of a covenant between me and you. And the child of 8 days old will be circumcised by you, every male throughout your generations, and the servant born in the house, and he that is bought with money, of every son of a stranger, who is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with money will be surely circumcised, and my covenant will be on your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male, who will not be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul will be utterly destroyed from its family, for he has broken my covenant. And God said to Abraham, Sarai your woman, her name will not be called Sarai, Sarah will be her name. And I will bless her, and give you a son of her, and I will bless him, and he will become nations, and kings of nations will be of him. And Abraham fell upon his face, and laughed, and spoke in his heart, saying, Will there be a child to one who is 100 years old, and will Sarah who is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said to God, Let this Ismail live before you. And God said to Abraham, Yea, behold, Sarah your woman will bear you a son, and you will call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God to him and to his seed after him. And concerning Ismail, behold, I have heard you, and, behold, I have blessed him, and will increase him and multiply him exceedingly. 12 nations will he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time, in the next year. And he left off speaking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ismail his son, and all his native-born servants, and all those bought with money, and every male of the men in the house of Abraham, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins on the selfsame day, according as God spoke to him. And Abraham was 99 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ismail his son was 13 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And at the time of that day, Abraham was circumcised, and Ismail his son, and all the men of his house, both those born in the house, and those bought with money of foreign nations. Chapter 17. And God appeared to him by the oak of Mamre, as he sat by the door of his tent at noon. And he lifted up his eyes and beheld, and lo, 3 men stood before him, and having seen them, he ran to meet them from the door of his tent, and did obeisance to the ground. And he said, Master, if indeed I have found grace in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let water now be brought, and let them wash your feet, and do rest under the tree. And I will bring bread, and you will eat, and after this you will depart on your journey, for this is why you have passed over to your servant. And he said, So do, as you have said. And Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah, and said to her, Quick, knead 3 measures of fine flour, and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, and took a young calf, tender and good, and gave it to his servant, and he hurried to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and he set them before them, and they ate, and he stood by them under the tree. And he said to him, Where is Sarah your woman? And he answered and said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will return and come to you this same season, and Sarah your woman will have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent or behind him. And Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in days, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. And Sarah laughed in herself, saying, The thing has not as yet happened to me, even until now, and my Lord is old. And Yahuwah said to Abraham, Why is it that Sarah has laughed in herself, saying, Will I then indeed bear? But I am grown old. Will anything be impossible with Yahuwah? At this same time, I will return to you in due season, and Sarah will have a son. But Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said to her, Nay, but you did laugh. And the men having risen up from there looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham went with them, attending them on their journey. And Yahuwah said, Will I hide from Abraham my servant what things I intend to do? But Abraham will become a great and powerful Gentile, and in him will all the nations of the earth be blessed. For I know that he will order his sons and his house after him, and they will keep the ways of Yahuwah, to do justice and judgment, that Yahuwah may bring upon Abraham all things whatever he has spoken to him. And Yahuwah said, The cry of Sodom and Gomorrah has been increased towards me, and their sins are very great. I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned from there, and went toward to Sodom, and Abraham was still standing before Yahuwah. And Abraham drew close and said, Would you destroy the righteous with the wicked, and will the righteous be as the wicked? Should there be 50 righteous in the city, will you destroy them? Will you not spare the whole place, for the sake of the 50 righteous, if they be in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And Yahuwah said, If there should be in Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole city, and the whole place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Now I have begun to speak to my Yahuwah, and I am earth and ashes. But if the 50 righteous should be reduced to 45, will you destroy the whole city, because of the lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it, if I should find there 45. And he continued to speak to him still, and said, But if there should be found there 40? And he said, I will not destroy it for the 40's sake. And he said, Will there be anything against me, Yahuwah, if I will speak? But if there be found there 30? And he said, I will not destroy it for the 30's sake. And he said, Since I am able to speak to Yahuwah, what if there should be found there 20? And he said, I will not destroy it, if I should find there 20. And he said, Will there be anything against me, Yahuwah, if I speak yet once? But if there should be found there 10? And he said, I will not destroy it for the 10's sake. And Yahuwah departed, when he left off speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 18. And the 2 angels came to Sodom at evening. And Lot sat by the gate of Sodom, and Lot having seen them, rose up to meet them, and he worshipped with his face to the ground, and said, Lo, my lords, turn aside to the house of your servant, and rest from your journey, and wash your feet, and having risen early in the morning you will depart on your journey. And they said, Nay, but we will lodge in the street. And he insisted strongly, and they turned aside to him, and they entered into his house, and he made a feast for them, and baked unleavened cakes for them, and they ate. But before they went to sleep, the men of the city, the Sodomites, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people together. And they called out Lot, and said to him, Where are the men that went into you this night? Bring them out to us that we may be with them. And Lot went out to them to the porch, and he shut the door after him, and said to them, By no means, brothers, do not act so villainously. I have 2 daughters, who have not known a man. I will bring them out to you, and you use them as it may please you, only do not injury to these men, which is the reason they came under the shelter of my roof. And they said to him, Stand back there. You came to lodge, was it also to judge? Now then we would harm you more than them. And they pressed hard on the man, even Lot, and they drew close to breaking the door. And the men stretched out their hands, and drew Lot into the house with them, and shut the door of the house. And they struck the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, and they wearied themselves to see the door. And the men said to Lot, Have you sons-in-laws, or sons or daughters, or if you have any other friend in the city, bring them out of this place. For we are going to destroy this place, for their cry has been raised up before Yahuwah, and Yahuwah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out, and spoke to his sons-in-law who had married his daughters, and said, Rise up, and depart out of this place, for Yahuwah is about to destroy this city. But he seemed to be speaking absurdly before his sons-in-law. But when it was morning, the angels hurried Lot, saying, Arise and take your woman, and your 2 daughters whom you have, and go out, if perhaps you also be destroyed with the iniquities of the city. When Lot hesitated, the angels laid hold on his hand, and the hand of his woman, and the hands of his 2 daughters, in that Yahuwah spared him. And it came to pass, when they brought them out, that they said, Save your own life. And by all means, do not look back, nor stop in all the country around, escape to the mountain, if perhaps you be destroyed with them. And Lot said, I pray, Yahuwah, since your servant has found mercy before you, and you have magnified your righteousness in what you do towards me, that my soul may live, but I will not be able to escape to the mountain, if perhaps the calamity overtakes me and I die. Behold, there is a city close enough for me to escape to, which is a small one, and there will I be preserved, is it not little? And my soul will live because of you. And he said to him, Behold, I have had respect to you also about this thing, that I should not overthrow this city about which you have spoken. Hurry therefore to escape there, for I will not be able to do anything until you get there. Therefore he called the name of that city Zor. The sun had risen upon the earth, when Lot entered into Zor. And Yahuwah rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahuwah out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the country around, and all that dwelt in the cities, and the plants springing out of the ground. But his woman looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Abram rose up early to go to the place where he had stood before Yahuwah. And he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and towards the surrounding country, and saw, and behold, a flame went up from the earth as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass that, when God destroyed all the cities of the region around, God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when Yahuwah overthrew those cities in which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zor, and dwelt in the mountain, he and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zor, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters with him. And the elder said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no one on the earth who will come into us, as it is fit in all the earth. Come and let us make our father drink wine, and let us sleep with him, and let us raise up seed from our father. So they made their father drink wine in that night, and the elder went in, and lay with her father that night, and he did not know when she lay down, or when she rose up. And it came to pass tomorrow, that the elder said to the younger, Behold, I slept last night with our father, let us make him drink wine in this night also, and do you go in and sleep with him, and let us raise up seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine in that night also, and the younger went in and slept with her father, and he did not know when he slept, nor when he arose. And the 2 daughters of Lot conceived by their father. And the elder bore a son, and called his name Moab, saying, He is of my father. This is the father of the Moabites to this present day. And the younger also bore a son, and called his name Ammon, saying, The son of my family. This is the father of the Ammonites to this present day. Chapter 19. And Abraham moved to the southern country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said concerning Sarah his woman, She is my sister, for he feared to say, She is my woman, if perhaps at any time the men of the city should kill him for her sake. So Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. And God came to Abimelech by night as he slept, and said, Behold, you die for the woman whom you have taken, because she lives with a husband. But Abimelech had not touched her, and he said, Yahuwah, will you destroy an ignorantly sinning and just nation? Said he not to me, She is my sister, and said she not to me, He is my brother? With a pure heart, and in the righteousness of my hands, have I done this. And God said to him in sleep, Yea, I knew that you did this with a pure heart, and I spared you, so that you should not sin against me, therefore I suffered you not to touch her. But now return the man his woman, for he is a prophet, and will pray for you, and you will live, but if you do not restore her, know that you will die, and all that is yours. And Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and he spoke all these words in their ears, and all the men feared exceedingly. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What is this that you have done to us? Have we sinned against you, that you have brought upon me, and upon my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me a deed, which no one ought to do. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What have you seen in me, that you have done this? And Abraham said, Because I feared I thought, surely there is not the fear of God in this place, and they will slay me because of my woman. For truly she is my sister by my father, but not by my mother, and she became my woman. And it came to pass when God brought me out of the house of my father, that I said to her, This righteousness you will perform to me, in every place into which we may enter, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took 1,000 pieces of silver, and sheep, and calves, and servants, and maidservants, and gave them to Abraham, and he returned to him Sarah his woman. And Abimelech said to Abraham, Behold, my land is before you, dwell wheresoever it may please you. And to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver, those will be to you for the price of your forward face, and to all the women with you. So in all things, speak the truth. Thus she was reproved aught. And Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and his woman, and his women servants, and they bore children. Because Yahuwah had fast closed every womb in the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah Abraham's woman. Chapter 20. And Yahuwah visited Sarah as he said, and Yahuwah did to Sarah as he spoke. And she conceived and bore to Abraham a son in old age, at the set time, according to what Yahuwah told him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised Isaac on the 8th day, as God commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old, when Isaac his son was born to him. And Sarah said, The Yahuwah has made me to laugh, for whoever hears will rejoice with me. And she said, Who will say to Abraham, Sarah breastfeeds a child, for I have borne a child in my old age? And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the day that his son Isaac was weaned. And Sarah, having seen the son of Hagar the Egyptian who was born to Abraham, sporting with Isaac her son, then she said to Abraham, Cast out this maidservant and her son, for the son of this bondwoman will not inherit with my son Isaac. But her words were very grievous before Abraham concerning his son. But God said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous concerning the child, and concerning the maidservant, in all things whatever Sarah says to you, hear her voice. For in Isaac will your seed be called. And I will also make the son of this bondwoman a great nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose up in the morning and took loaves and a skin of water, and gave them to Hagar, and he put it on the shoulder of the child and her, and sent her away. She departed wandering in the wilderness near the well of the oath. And when the water was gone from the skin, she cast the child under a fir tree. She departed and sat down away from him at a distance, as it were a bow shot, for she said, I cannot bear to see the death of my child. And she sat away from him, and she cried aloud and wept. And God heard the voice of the child from the place where he was, and an angel of God called Hagar out of heaven, and said to her, What is it, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the child from the place where he is. Rise up, and take the child, and hold him in your hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of springing water, and she went and filled the skin with water, and gave the child drink. And God was with the child, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness, and his mother took him a woman out of El-Paran of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time, that Abimelech and his friend Phichol the chief captain of his army spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all things, whatever you may do. Now therefore swear to me by God, that you will not injure me, nor my seed, nor my name, but according to the righteousness which I have dealt with you, deal likewise with me, and with the land in which you have lived in. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the wells of water, which the servants of Abimelech took away. And Abimelech said to him, I do not know who has done this thing to you, neither did you tell it me, I have only heard about it today. And Abraham took sheep and calves, and gave them to Abimelech, and both made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs by themselves. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs which you have set alone? And Abraham said, You will receive the 7 ewe lambs from me, that they may be for me as a witness, that I dug this well. Therefore he named the name of that place, the well of the oath, for there they both swore. And they made a covenant at the well of the oath. And there rose up Abimelech and Phicol his friend, and the commander-in-chief of his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a field at the well of the oath, and called thereon the name of Yahuwah, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. Chapter 21. And it came to pass after these things, that God tested Abraham, and said to him, Abraham, Abraham, and he said, Lo, I am here. And he said, Take your son, the beloved one, whom you have loved, Isaac, and go into the high land, and offer him there for a whole burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will tell you of. And Abraham rose up in the morning and saddled his donkey, and he took with him 2 servants, and Isaac his son. Having split wood for a whole burnt offering, they arose and departed, and came to the place where God told to him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham having lifted up his eyes, saw the place far off. Abraham said to his servants, Sit you here with the donkey, I and the lad will proceed yonder, and after worshipping we will return to you. And Abraham took the wood of the whole burnt offering, and laid it on Isaac his son. Into his hands he took both the fire and the knife, and the 2 went together. But Isaac said to Abraham his father, Father. And he said, What is it, son? And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, where is the sheep for a whole burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will provide himself a sheep for a whole burnt offering, my son. And both having gone together, then they came to the place where God spoke of to him, and there Abraham built the altar, and laid the wood on it, and having bound the feet together of Isaac his son, he laid him on the wood of the altar. And Abraham stretched out his hand, to take the knife to slay his son. And an angel of Yahuwah called him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Behold, I am here. And he said, Do not lay your hand upon the child, neither do anything to him, because now I know that you fear God, and for my sake you have not spared your beloved son. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and beheld, and lo, a ram caught by his horns in a thicket bush, and Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a whole burnt offering in the place of Isaac his son. And Abraham called the name of that place, The Yahuwah has seen, that they might say today, In the mount Yahuwah was seen. And an angel of Yahuwah called Abraham the 2nd time out of heaven, saying, I have sworn by myself, says Yahuwah, because you have done this thing, and on my account, you have not spared your beloved son, surely blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is by the shore of the sea, and your seed will inherit the cities of their enemies. And in your seed will all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have regarded my voice. And Abraham returned to his servants. They arose and went together to the well of the oath, and Abraham dwelt at the well of the oath. And it came to pass after these things, that it was reported to Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah herself has borne sons to Nahor your brother, Uz the firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram and the Syrians, Chest, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These are the 8 sons that Milcah bore to Nahor the brother of Abraham. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore him children Tebah, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. Chapter 22. And the life of Sarah was 127 years. And Sarah died in the city of Kiriath Arba, that is in the Hebron valley in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to lament for Sarah and to mourn. And Abraham stood up from before his dead, and Abraham spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a stranger among you, grant me ownership of a burial site among you, and I will bury my dead away from me. And the sons of Heth answered to Abraham, saying, Not so, sir, but hear us, you are in the midst of us a king from God, bury your dead in our choice tombs, for not one of us will by any means withhold his tomb from you, so that you should not bury your dead there. And Abraham rose up, and did obeisance to the people of the land, to the sons of Heth. And Abraham spoke to them, saying, If you have it in your mind, that I should bury my dead out of my sight, obey my voice, and speak for me to Ephron the son of Zohar. And let him give me the double cave of Machpelah that he has, which is in a part of his field, let him sell it for the money it is worth for ownership of a burial site among you. Now Ephron was sitting in the midst of the children of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham and spoke in the hearing of the sons of Heth, and of all who entered the city, saying, Attend to me, my lord, and hear me. I give to you the field and the cave that is in it. I have given it to you before all my countrymen, bury your dead. And Abraham did obeisance before the people of the land. And he said in the ears of Ephron before the people of the land, Since you are on my side, hear me. Take the price of the field from me, and I will bury my dead there. But Ephron answered Abraham, saying, Nay, my lord, I have indeed heard, the land is worth 400 silver didrachms, but what can this be between me and you? Nay, do bury your dead. And Abraham regarded Ephron, and Abraham rendered to Ephron the money that he mentioned in the ears of the sons of Heth, 400 didrachms by merchant standards, in the field of Ephron, that was in double cave, which is opposite Mamre, the field and the cave that was in it, and every tree that was in the field, and whatever is in its borders round about, were made sure to Abraham for a possession, before the sons of Heth, and all that entered into the city. After this Abraham buried Sarah his woman in the double cave of the field, which is opposite Mamre, this is Hebron in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave which was in it were made sure to Abraham for ownership of a burial site, by the sons of Heth. Chapter 23. And Abraham was old, advanced in days, and Yahuwah blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his servant the elder of his house, who had rule over all his belongings, Put your hand under my thigh, and I will adjure you by Yahuwah the God of heaven, and the God of earth, that you do not take a woman for my son Isaac from the daughters of the Canaanites, with whom I dwell in the midst of them. But you will go instead to my country, where I was born, and to my tribe, and you will take from there a woman for my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I take your son back to the land from where you came? And Abraham said to him, Take notice of yourself that you do not carry my son back there. The Yahuwah the God of heaven, and the God of earth, who took me out of my father's house, and out of the land from where I was raised, who spoke to me, and who swore to me, saying, I will give this land to you, and to your seed, he will send his angel before you, and you will take a woman to my son from there. And if the woman should not be willing to come with you into this land, you will be clear from my oath, only do not carry my son there again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham, and swore to him concerning this matter. And the servant took 10 of his master's camels, and all the goods of his master with him, and he arose and went into Mesopotamia to the city of Nahor. And he rested his camels without the city by the well of water towards evening, when damsels go out to draw water. And he said, O Yahuwah God of my master Abraham, prosper my way before me today, and deal mercifully with my master Abraham. Lo, I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of them that inhabit the city come out to draw water. And let it will be, the virgin to whomever I will say, Let down your pitcher, that I may drink, and she will say, Drink you, and I will give your camels drink, until they will have done drinking even this one you have prepared for your servant Isaac. And hereby will I know that you have dealt mercifully with my master Abraham. And it came to pass, before he had finished speaking in his mind, that behold, Rebekah the daughter of Bethuel son of Milcah was the woman of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out, having a pitcher on her shoulders. And the virgin was very beautiful in appearance, she was a virgin, a man had not known her, and she went down to the well, and filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran up to meet her, and said, Give me a little water, to drink out of your pitcher. And she said, Drink, sir, and she hurried, and let down the pitcher upon her arm, and gave him to drink, till he ceased drinking. Then she said, I will also draw water for your camels, till they will all have drunk. And she hurried, and emptied the pitcher into the trough, and ran to the well to draw again, and drew water for all the camels. Silently the man took great notice of her to know whether Yahuwah have made his way prosperous or not. And it came to pass when all the camels ceased drinking, that the man took golden nose rings, each of a drachm weight, and he put 2 bracelets on her hands, their weight was 10 pieces of gold. And he asked her, and said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me if there is room for us to lodge with your father. And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. And she said to him, We have both hay and much fodder, and a place for resting. And the man being well pleased, worshipped Yahuwah, and he said, Blessed be Yahuwah God of my master Abraham, who has not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I being in the way, Yahuwah led me to the house of my master's brothers. And the damsel ran and reported to the house of her mother according to these words. And Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to meet the man at the well. And it came to pass, when he saw the nose rings, and the bracelets on the hands of his sister, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus the man spoke to me, that he went to the man who was standing by the camels at the well. And he said to him, Come in here, you blessed of Yahuwah. Why stand outside, considering I have prepared the house, and a place for the camels? And the man entered into the house, and unloaded the camels, and gave the camels hay and fodder, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men that were with him. And he set before them loaves to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I have told my errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am a servant of Abraham, and Yahuwah has blessed my master greatly, and he is exalted, and he has given him sheep, and calves, and silver, and gold, servants and maidservants, camels, and donkeys. And Sarah my master's woman bore one son to my master, after he had grown old, and to him he has given all that he has. And my master caused me to swear, saying, You will not take a woman to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I sojourn in their land. But you will go to the house of my father, and to my tribe, and you will take there a woman for my son. And I said to my master, What if the woman will not go with me? And he said to me, Yahuwah God to whom I have been acceptable in his presence, himself will send out his angel with you, and will prosper your journey, and you will take a woman for my son of my tribe, and of the house of my father. Then will you be clear from my oath, for when you will have come to my tribe, and they will not give her to you, then will you be clear from my oath. And having come this day to the well, I said, Yahuwah God of my master Abraham, if you prospered my journey on which I am now going, behold, I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water, and it will be that the damsel to whom I will say, Give me a little water to drink out of your pitcher, and she will say to me, Both drink you, and I will draw water for your camels. This will be the woman whom Yahuwah has prepared for his own servant Isaac, and hereby will I know that you have brought mercy with my master Abraham. And it came to pass, before I had done speaking in my mind, straightway Rebekah came out, having her pitcher on her shoulders, and she went down to the well, and drew water, and I said to her, Give me to drink. And she hurried and let down her pitcher on her arm from her head, and said, Drink you, and I will give your camels drink. And I drank, and she gave the camels drink. And I asked her, and said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me. And she said, I am daughter of Bethuel the son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him, and I put on her the nose rings, and the bracelets on her hands. And finding grace, I worshipped Yahuwah, and I blessed Yahuwah the God of my master Abraham, who has prospered me in a true way, so that I should take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. If then you will deal mercifully and justly with my lord, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. And Laban and Bethuel answered and said, This matter has come out from Yahuwah, we will not be able to answer you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you, take her and go away, and let her be a woman to the son of your master, as Yahuwah has said. And it came to pass, when the servant of Abraham heard these words, he bowed himself to Yahuwah down to the earth. And the servant, having brought out jewels of silver and gold and raiment, gave them to Rebekah, and gave gifts to her brother, and to her mother. And both he and the men with him ate and drank and went to sleep. And he arose in the morning and said, Send me away, that I may go to my master. And her brothers and her mother said, Let the virgin remain with us about 10 days, and after that she will depart. But he said to them, Hinder me not, for Yahuwah has prospered my journey. Send me away, that I may depart to my master. And they said, Let us call the damsel, and inquire at her mouth. And they called Rebekah, and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. So they sent out Rebekah their sister, and her goods, and the servant of Abraham, and his attendants. And they blessed Rebekah, and said to her, You are our sister, become thousands of myriads, and let your seed possess the cities of their enemies. And Rebekah rose up and her maidens, and they mounted the camels and went with the man, and the servant having taken up Rebekah, departed. And Isaac went through the wilderness to the well of the vision, and he dwelt in the land toward the south. And Isaac went out into the plain toward evening to meditate, and having lifted up his eyes, he saw camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and saw Isaac, and she alighted briskly from the camel, and said to the servant, Who is that man that walks in the plain to meet us? And the servant said, This is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all that he had done. And Isaac went into the house of his mother, and took Rebekah, and she became his woman, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after the death of Sarah his mother. Chapter 24. And Abraham again took a woman, whose name was Keturah, and she bore to him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan begot Saba and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were the Asarites and the Letishites, and Lumite. And the sons of Midian are Ephah, Epher, Hanach, Abida, Eldad, all these were sons of Keturah. But Abraham gave all his belongings to Isaac his son. And to the sons of his concubines Abraham gave gifts, and while he was still alive, he sent them away into the country of the east from his son Isaac. And these were the years of the days of the life of Abraham, as many as he lived, 175 years. And Abraham gave up his spirit, and died in a good old age, an old man and full of days, and was added to his people. And Isaac and Ismail his sons buried him in the double cave, in the field of Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is over against Mamre. Even the field and the cave which Abraham bought from the sons of Heth, there they buried Abraham and Sarah his woman. And it came to pass after Abraham was dead, that God blessed Isaac his son, and Isaac dwelt by the well of the vision. And these are the generations of Ismail the son of Abraham, whom Hagar the Egyptian the maidservant of Sarah bore to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ismail, according to the names of their generations: Nabath Ishmael's firstborn, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadid, Teman, Jeter, Naphish, Kedemah. These are the sons of Ismail, and these are their names, by town and settlement. 12 princes according to their clans. And these are the years of the life of Ismail, 137 years, and he gave up his spirit and died, and was added to his fathers. And he dwelt from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt, until one comes to the Assyrians. He dwelt in the presence of all his brothers. And these are the generations of Isaac the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old, when he took to be his woman Rebekah daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, out of Syrian Mesopotamia, sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac prayed to Yahuwah concerning Rebekah his woman, because she was barren, and Yahuwah heard him, and his woman Rebekah conceived in her womb. The children struggled with each other inside her. She said, "If it be thus within me, why am I pregnant?" She went to inquire of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to her, "There are 2 nations in your womb, and 2 peoples will be separated from your belly, and one people will excel the other, and the elder will serve the younger." And the days were fulfilled, that she should be delivered, and she had twins in her womb. And the first came out red and hairy all over like a garment, and she called his name Esau. And after this came out his brother, and his hand took hold of the heel of Esau, and she called his name Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah bore them. And the children grew up. Esau became a man skilled in hunting, dwelling in the country, and Jacob a simple man, dwelling in a house. And Isaac loved Esau, because of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came from the plain, fainting. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me taste of that red stuff, because I am fainting." That why his name was called Edom. And Jacob said to Esau, "Sell me this day your birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am going to die, and for what good does this birthright belong to me?" And Jacob said to him, "Swear to me this day." And he swore to him, and Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave bread to Esau, and pottage of lentils, and he ate and drank, and he arose and departed. So Esau did not value his birthright properly. Chapter 25. And there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that was in the time of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech the king of the Philistines to Gerar. And Yahuwah appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but dwell in the land, which I will tell you of. Stay in this land, and I will be with you, and bless you, for I will give to you and to your seed all this land, and I will establish my oath which I swore to your father Abraham. And I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and I will give to your seed all this land, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in your seed. Because Abraham your father regarded my voice, and kept my rulings, and my commandments, and my ordinances, and my statutes." And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place questioned him concerning Rebekah his woman, and he said, "She is my sister," for he feared to say, "She is my woman," if perhaps at any time the men of the place should slay him because of Rebekah, because she was fair. And he remained there a long time, and Abimelech the king of Gerar leaned to look through the window, and saw Isaac sporting with Rebekah his woman. And Abimelech called Isaac, and said to him, "Is she then your woman? Why have you said, 'She is my sister'?" And Isaac said to him, "I did so, for I said, if perhaps at any time I die on her account." And Abimelech said to him, "Why have you done this to us? One of my kindred may had casually lain with your woman, and you would have brought a sin of ignorance upon us." And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, "Every man that touches this man and his woman will be liable to death." And Isaac reaped in that year of barley 100 times what he had sown, and Yahuwah blessed him. And the man was exalted, and grew continually, till he became very great. And he had cattle of sheep and oxen, and many farm lands, and the Philistines envied him. And all the wells which the servants of his father had dug in the time of his father, the Philistines plugged them up, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, Depart from us, for you are become much mightier than we. And Isaac departed from there, and rested in the valley of Gerar, and dwelled there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water, which the servants of his father Abraham had dug, and the Philistines had plugged them up, after the death of his father Abraham. And he called them the names by which his father named them. And the servants of Isaac dug in the valley of Gerar, and they found there a well of living water. And the shepherds of Gerar strove with the shepherds of Isaac, saying that the water was theirs, and they named it the well of injury, for they injured him. And having departed from there he dug another well, and they strove also for that one. And he named it Enmity. And he departed from there and dug another well. And they did not strive about that one, and he named it Room, saying, Because now Yahuwah has made room for us, and has increased us upon the earth. And he went up to the well of the oath. And Yahuwah appeared to him in that night, and said, I am the God of Abraham your father, fear not, for I am with you, and I will bless you, and multiply your seed for the sake of Abraham your father. And he built there an altar, and called on the name of Yahuwah, and there he pitched his tent, and there the servants of Isaac dug a well in the valley of Gerar. And Abimelech came to him from Gerar, and so did Phicol his friend, and Phicol the commander-in-chief of his army. And Isaac said to them, Why have you come to me, seeing that you hated me, and sent me away from you? And they said, We have surely seen that Yahuwah was with you. And we said, Let there be an oath between us and you, and we will make a covenant with you, that you will do no wrong to us, as we have not hated you, and according as we have treated you well, and have sent you out peaceably, and now you are blessed of Yahuwah. And he made a feast for them, and they ate and drank. And they arose in the morning, and swore each to his neighbor. And Isaac sent them out, and they departed from him in safety. And it came to pass in that day, that the servants of Isaac came and told him of the well which they had dug, and they said, We have not found water. And he called it Oath, he called the name of that city the well of Oath, until this day. And Esau was 40 years old, and he took to be his woman Judith the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they were provoking to Isaac and Rebekah. Chapter 26. And it came to pass after Isaac was old, that his eyes were dim so that he could not see, and he called Esau his elder son and said to him, My son, and he said, Behold, I am here. And he said, Behold, I am grown old, and do not know the day of my death. Now then take your weapons, both your quiver and your bow, and go into the plain, and get me venison, and cook me meats as I like them, and bring them to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you, before I die. And Rebekah heard Isaac speaking to Esau his son. So Esau went to the plain to hunt venison for his father. And Rebekah said to Jacob her younger son, Behold, I heard your father speaking to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me venison, and prepare me meats, that I may eat and bless you before Yahuwah before I die. Now then, my son, obey my voice, as I command you. And go to the cattle and take for me their 2 kids, tender and good, and I will make meat for your father, as he likes. And you will bring them to your father to eat, so that your father may bless you before he dies. And Jacob said to his mother Rebekah, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I a smooth man. My father may feel me, and I will be before him as one with ill intentions, and I will bring upon me a curse, and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, On me be your curse, son, only obey my voice, now go and bring them to me. So he went and took and brought them to his mother, and his mother made meats, as his father liked them. And Rebekah, having taken the choice raiment of her elder son Esau which was with her in the house, put it on Jacob her younger son. And she put on his arms the skins of the kid goats, and on the bare parts of his neck. And she gave the meats, and the loaves which she had prepared, into the hands of Jacob her son. And he brought them to his father, and said, Father, and he said, Behold, I am here, who are you, son? And Jacob said to his father, I, Esau your firstborn, have done as you told me, rise, sit, and eat of my venison, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, What is this that you have so quickly found? And he said, That which Yahuwah your God presented before me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Draw close to me, and I will feel you, son, to see if you are my son Esau or not. And Jacob drew close to his father Isaac, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not know him, for his hands were as the hands of his brother Esau, hairy. So he blessed him, and he said, Are you my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Come here, and I will eat of your venison, son, that my soul may bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And Isaac his father said to him, Draw close to me, and kiss me, son. And he drew close and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his garments, and blessed him, and said, Behold, the smell of my son is as the smell of a plentiful field, that Yahuwah has blessed. And may God give you of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and abundance of corn and wine. And let people serve you, and princes bow down to you, and be lord of your brother, and the sons of your father will honor you. Accursed is he that curses you, and blessed is he that blesses you. And it came to pass after Isaac had ceased blessing his son Jacob, just when Jacob had gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made meats, and brought them to his father, and he said to his father, Let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your firstborn son Esau. And Isaac was fraught with immense incredulity, and said, Who then is it that has gotten venison for me and brought it to me? And I have eaten before you came, and I have blessed him, and he will be blessed. And it came to pass when Esau heard the words of his father Isaac, he cried out with a great and very bitter cry, and said, Bless, I pray you, me also, father. And he said to him, Your brother has come with cunning, and taken your blessing. And he said, Rightly was his name called Jacob? For lo, this second time has he supplanted me. He has both taken my birthright, and now he has taken my blessing. And Esau said to his father, Have you not left a blessing for me, father? And Isaac answered and said to Esau, If I have made him your lord, and have made all his brothers I gave to him as servants, and have strengthened him with corn and wine, what then will I do for you, son? And Esau said to his father, Have you only one blessing, father? Bless, I pray you, me also, father. And Isaac was troubled, and Esau cried aloud and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, your dwelling will be of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And you will live by your sword, and will serve your brother, and there will be a time when you will break and loosen his yoke from off your neck. And Esau was angry with Jacob, because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his mind, Let the days of my father's mourning draw close, that I may slay my brother Jacob. And the words of Esau her elder son were reported to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said to him, Behold, Esau your brother threatens to kill you. Now then, my son, hear my voice and rise and depart quickly into Mesopotamia to Laban my brother in Haran. And dwell with him some days, until your brother's anger and rage depart from you, and he forget what you have done to him, and I will send and fetch you there, if perhaps at any time I should be bereaved of you both in one day. And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life, because of the daughters of the sons of Heth. If Jacob will take a woman of the daughters of this land, then why should I live? Chapter 27. And Isaac having called for Jacob, blessed him, and charged him, saying, You will not take a woman of the daughters of the Canaanites. Rise and depart quickly into Mesopotamia, to the house of Bethuel the father of your mother, and take to yourself there a woman of the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. And may my God bless you, and increase you, and multiply you, and you will become congregations of nations. And may he give you the blessing of my father Abraham, even to you, and to your seed after you, to inherit the land of where you are foreigner, which God gave to Abraham. So Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went into Mesopotamia to Laban the son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah the mother of Jacob and Esau. And Esau saw that Isaac blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Mesopotamia of Syria as he blessed him to take to himself a woman from there, and that he charged him, saying, You will not take a woman of the daughters of the Canaanites, and that Jacob regarded his father and his mother, and went to Mesopotamia of Syria. And Esau also having seen that the daughters of Canaan were evil before his father Isaac, Esau went to Ismail, and took Mahalath the daughter of Ismail who is the son of Abraham, the sister of Nebajoth's woman in addition to his other wives. And Jacob went out from the well of the oath, and departed into Haran, and came to a certain place and slept there, for the sun had gone down, and he took one of the stones of the place, and put it at his head, and lay down to sleep in that place, and dreamed, and behold a ladder fixed on the earth, whose top reached to heaven, and the angels of God ascended and descended on it. And Yahuwah stood upon it, and said, I am the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. Fear not, the land on which you lay, to you will I give it, and to your seed. And your seed will be as the sand of the earth, and it will spread abroad to the sea, and the south, and the north, and to the east, and in you, and in your seed, will all the tribes of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with you to preserve you continually wherever you will go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not desert you, until I have done all that I have said to you. And Jacob awoke out of his sleep, and said, The Yahuwah is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid, and said, How fearful is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up in the morning, and took the stone he had laid there by his head, and he set it up as a pillar, and poured oil on the top of it. And he named that place, the house of God, and the name of the city before was Luz. And Jacob vowed, saying, If Yahuwah God will be with me, and guard me throughout on this journey on which I am going, and give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, and bring me back in safety to the house of my father, then will Yahuwah be a God to me. And this stone, which I have set up for a pillar, will be to me a house of God, and of all that you will give me, I will give a tenth to you. Chapter 28. And Jacob went to the land of the east to Laban the son of Bethuel the Syrian, and the brother of Rebekah, who is the mother of Jacob and Esau. And he looked, and behold, the well in the plain, and there were 3 flocks of sheep resting at it. Out of that well they watered the flocks, but there was a great stone at the mouth of the well. And all the flocks gathered where they used to roll away the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the flocks, and set the stone again in its place on the mouth of the well. And Jacob said to them, Brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Know you Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We do know him. And he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And behold, Rachel his daughter came with the sheep. Then he said, Look, it is still high day, it is not time for the cattle to be gathered together. Water the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We are not able, until all the shepherds are gathered together, and they will roll away the stone from the mouth of the well, then we will water the flocks. While he was yet speaking to them, behold, Rachel the daughter of Laban came with her father's sheep, for she fed the sheep of her father. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel the daughter of Laban his mother's brother and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob came and rolled away the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the sheep of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and cried with a loud voice and wept. And he told Rachel that he was the near relative of her father, and the son of Rebekah, and she ran and reported to her father according to these words. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the name of Jacob his sister's son, he ran to meet him, and embraced and kissed him, and brought him into his house, and he told Laban all these sayings. And Laban said to him, You are of my bones, and of my flesh. And he was with him a full month. And Laban said to Jacob, Surely you will not serve me for nothing, because you are my brother. Tell me what your compensation is to be. Now Laban had 2 daughters, the name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger, Rachel. And the eyes of Leah were weak. But Rachel was beautiful in appearance, and exceedingly fair in countenance. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel. And Laban said to him, It is better that I should give her to you, than I should give her to another man. Dwell with me. And Jacob served for Rachel 7 years, and they were to him as a few days, because he loved her. And Jacob said to Laban, Give me my woman, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in to her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a wedding feast. When it was evening, he took his daughter Leah and brought her into Jacob, and Jacob went into her. And Laban gave to his daughter Leah Zilpah his handmaid, as a handmaid for her. When it was morning, behold, it was Leah, and Jacob said to Laban, What is this that you have done to me? Did I not serve you for Rachel? So why have you deceived me? And Laban answered, It is not done thus in our country, to give the younger before the elder. Fulfill then her week, and I will give you Leah also for yet another 7 years' labor. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his woman. And Laban gave to his daughter his handmaid Bilhah, for a handmaid. And he went into Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served him 7 other years. And when Yahuwah God saw that Leah was hated, so he opened her womb, but then Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son to Jacob, and she called his name Reuben, saying, Because Yahuwah has looked on my humiliation, and has given me a son, now then my husband will love me. And she conceived again, and bore a second son to Jacob, and she said, Because Yahuwah has heard that I am hated, he has given me this one also, and she called his name Simeon. And she conceived yet again, and bore a son, and said, In the present time my husband will be with me, for I have borne him 3 sons, therefore she called his name Levi. And having conceived yet again, she bore a son, and said, Now yet again this time I will give thanks to Yahuwah, therefore she called his name Judah, and ceased bearing. Chapter 29. And Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, was jealous of her sister, and said to Jacob, Give me children, and if not, I will die. And Jacob was angry with Rachel, and said to her, Am I in the place of God, who has deprived you of the fruit of the womb? And Rachel said to Jacob, Behold my handmaid Bilhah, go into her, and she will bear upon my knees, and I also will have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah her maid, for a woman to him, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah Rachel's maid conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has given me judgment, and regarded my voice, and has given me a son, therefore she called his name Dan. And Bilhah Rachel's maid conceived yet again, and bore a second son to Jacob. And Rachel said, God has helped me, and I contended with my sister and prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she ceased from bearing, and she took Zilpah her maid, and gave her to Jacob for a woman, and he went into her. And Zilpah the maid of Leah conceived, and bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, It is unforeseen, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah the maid of Leah conceived yet again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, I am blessed, for the women will pronounce me blessed, and she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the day of the wheat harvest, and found mandrake tubers in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah her sister, Give me of your son's mandrakes. And Leah said, Is it not enough for you that you have taken my husband, will you also take my son's mandrakes? And Rachel said, Not so. Let him lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. And Jacob came in out of the field at evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, You will come into me this day, for I have hired you for my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God noticed Leah, and she conceived, and bore Jacob a 5th son. And Leah said, God has given me my reward, because I gave my maid to my husband, and she called his name Issachar, which is, reward. And Leah conceived again, and bore Jacob a 6th son. And Leah said, God has given me a good gift in this time, my husband will choose me, for I have borne him 6 sons, and she called his name Zebulun. And after this she bore a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God noticed her, and he opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore Jacob a son, and Rachel said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, Let God add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, that I may go to my place, and to my land. Restore my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, that I may depart, for you know the service I have given you. And Laban said to him, If I have found grace in your sight, I have foreseen the good Yahuwah has blessed me on account of you. Appoint me your wages, and I will give them. And Jacob said, You know how I have served you, and how many of your cattle have been with me. For you had little before I arrived, and it has increased to a multitude, and Yahuwah God has blessed you since my coming. So now, when will I provide for my own house? And Laban said to him, What will I give you? And Jacob said to him, You will not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again tend your flocks and keep them. Let all your sheep pass by today, and separate every gray sheep among the rams, and every one that is speckled and spotted among the goats. This will be my pay. My integrity will testify for me tomorrow, for it will be my hire before you. Whatever will not be spotted and speckled among the goats, and gray among the rams, will be considered stolen with me. And Laban said to him, Let it be according to your word. And in that day he removed the spotted and speckled he-goats, and all the spotted and speckled she-goats, and all that were gray among the rams, and every one that was white among them, and he gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set a distance of a 3 days' journey between them and Jacob. And Jacob tended the cattle of Laban that were left behind. And Jacob took green branches of the poplar tree and walnut and chestnut tree. Then Jacob cut white stripes in the branches by peeling off their bark, so that the white stripes alternated on the branches. And he laid the branches which he had peeled in the hollows of the watering troughs, that whenever the cattle should come to drink, they would have come to drink in front of the branches, so that the cattle might conceive in the midst of the branches. So the cattle mated in the midst of the branches, and the cattle birthed speckled, and streaked and spotted with ash-colored spots. And Jacob separated those kid lambs, and set before the female sheep a speckled ram, and every multicolored kid lamb he removed from the flocks for himself alone, and did not mingle them with the sheep of Laban. And it came to pass in the time when the cattle became pregnant conceiving in the belly, Jacob put the branches in front of the cattle in the troughs, so that they might conceive in the midst of the branches. But he did not put them in carelessly. Whenever the cattle were feeble, he did not set them in, so the unmarked feeble ones were Laban's, and the marked strong ones were Jacob's. And the man became very rich, and he had many cattle, and oxen, and servants, and maidservants, and camels, and donkeys. Chapter 30. And Jacob heard the words of the sons of Laban, saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and of our father's property has he gotten all this glory. And Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And Yahuwah said to Jacob, Return to the land of your father, and to your family, and I will be with you. And Jacob sent and called Leah and Rachel to the plain where the flocks were. And he said to them, I see the face of your father, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father was with me. And you too know that with all my might I have served your father. But your father deceived me, and changed my wages for the lambs 10 times, yet God gave him no power to hurt me. If he should say thus, The speckled will be your reward, then all the cattle would bear speckled, and if he should say, The white will be your reward, then would all the cattle bear white. So God has taken away all the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass when the cattle conceived and were with young, that I beheld with my eyes in sleep, and behold the he-goats and the rams leaping on the sheep and the she-goats, speckled and multicolored and spotted with ash-colored spots. And the angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. And he said, Look up with your eyes, and behold the he-goats, and the rams leaping on the sheep and the she-goats, speckled and multicolored and spotted with ash-colored spots, for I have seen all things that Laban does to you. I am God that appeared to you in the place of God, where you anoint a pillar to me, and vowed to me a vow. Now arise and depart out of this land, depart into the land of your nativity, and I will be with you. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Have we yet a part or inheritance in the house of our father? Are we considered strangers by him? For he has sold us and devoured our money. All the wealth and the glory which God has taken from our father, it will be ours and our children's. Now then do whatever God has said to you. And Jacob arose and took his wives, and his children put them on camels, and he took away all his belongings and all his store, which he had gotten in Mesopotamia, and all that belonged to him, to depart to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And when Laban went to shear his sheep, Rachel went and stole her father's idols. And Jacob hid the matter from Laban the Syrian, so as not to tell him when he fled. And he fled with all he had, and passed over the river, and went into the mountain Gilead. But it was told to Laban the Syrian on the 3rd day, that Jacob was fled. And taking his brothers with him, he pursued after him 7 days' journey, and overtook him on Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said to him, Take caution to yourself, that you speak no evil things at any time to Jacob. And Laban overtook Jacob, and Jacob pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban stationed his brothers in the Mount Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done? Why did you run away secretly, and pillage me, and lead away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? If you had told me, I would have sent you away with mirth, and with songs, and timbrels, and harp. Was I counted not worthy to embrace my children and my daughters? Now then you have acted foolishly. And now my hand has power to hurt you, but the God of your father spoke to me yesterday, saying, Take caution to yourself that you speak no evil words to Jacob. So then go on your way, for you have earnestly desired to depart to the house of your father. And also, why have you stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, If perhaps at any time you should take away your daughters from me, and all my belongings. And Jacob said, With whomever you find your gods, he will not live in the presence of our brothers. Look for what I have of your property, and take it. And he found nothing with him, but Jacob did not know that his woman Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went in and searched in the house of Leah, and did not find them. And he went out of the house of Leah, and searched in the house of Jacob, and in the house of the 2 maidservants, and did not find them. And he went also into the house of Rachel. But Rachel took the idols, and hid them among the camels' packs, and sat upon them. And she said to her father, Be not indignant, sir. I cannot rise up before you, for it is with me according to the manner of women. Laban searched in all the house, and did not find the idols. And Jacob was angry, and strove with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my injustice, and what my sin, that you have pursued after me, and that you have searched all the furniture of my house? What of yours have you found of all the furniture in my house? Set it here between your brothers and my brothers, and let them judge between the two of us. These 20 years have I been with you, your sheep and your she-goats have not failed in bearing. I did not eat any of the rams of your cattle. That which was killed of beasts I made a good of myself, the thefts of the day, and the thefts of the night, I paid for it myself. I was parched with heat by day, and chilled with frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. These 20 years have I been in your house. I serve you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years among your sheep, and you did falsely change my wages of lambs 10 times. Unless I had the God of my father Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty. God saw my humble nature, and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you yesterday. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, The daughters are my daughters, and the sons my sons, and the cattle is my cattle, and all things which you can see are mine, and the property of my daughters. What will I do to them today, or their children which they bore? Now come, let me make a covenant, both I and you, and it will be for a witness between me and you. And he said to him, Although there is no one with us, behold, God is witness between me and you. And Jacob, having taken a stone, set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said to his brothers, Gather stones. And they gathered stones, and made a heap, and ate there upon the heap. And Laban said to him, This heap is a witness between me and you today. And Laban called it, the heap of testimony, and Jacob called it, the witness heap. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and the pillar, which I have set between me and you, this heap witnesses, and this pillar witnesses. Therefore its name was called, the witnesses' heap. And the vision of which he said, Let God look to it between me and you, because we are about to depart from each other. If you afflict my daughters, if you should bring in other wives over my daughters, see, there is no witness except God who is present and sees. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold, this heap, and this pillar is a witness. For I will not cross over to you, neither should you cross over to me, for harm beyond this heap and this pillar. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And he offered a sacrifice in the mountain, and called his brothers, and they ate and drank, and slept in the mountain. Chapter 31. And Laban rose up in the morning, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban, having turned back, departed to his place. And Jacob departed for his journey, and looking up he saw the host of God encamped, and the angels of God met him. And Jacob said when he saw them, This is the camp of God. And he called the name of that place, Encampments. And Jacob sent messengers to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, in the country of Edom. And he charged them, saying, This is what you must say to my lord Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, I have dwelt with Laban and waited until now. And there were born to me oxen, and donkeys, and sheep, and men servants and women servants, and I sent to tell my lord Esau, that your servant might find grace in your sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We went to your brother Esau, and lo, he comes to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was greatly terrified, and was distressed. So he divided the people that were with him, and the cows, and the camels, and the sheep, into 2 camps. And Jacob said, If Esau should come to one camp, and destroy it, the other camp will be in safety. And Jacob said, God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Yahuwah, you are he that said to me, Depart quickly to the land of your birth, and I will do you good. Let me be thought worthy of all the justice and all the truth, which you have shown your servant, for with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 camps. Deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I am afraid of him, if perhaps he should come and kill me, and the mothers of the children. But you said, I will do you good, and will make your seed as the sand of the sea, which will not be numbered for multitude. And he slept there that night, and took of the gifts which he carried with him, and sent out to Esau his brother 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 sheep, 20 rams, 30 milch camels and their foals, 40 oxen, 10 bulls, 20 donkeys, and 10 colts. And he gave them to his servants each a drove apart, and he said to his servants, Go on before me, and put a space between drove and drove. And he charged the first drove, saying, If Esau my brother meet you, and he asks you, saying, Whose are you, and where are you going, and whose are these possessions advancing before you? You will say, Your servant Jacob's, he has sent gifts to my lord Esau, and lo, he is behind us. And he charged the first and the second and the third, and all that went before him after these flocks, saying, Thus will you speak to Esau when you find him, and you will say, Behold, your servant Jacob comes after us. For he said, I will appease his temperament with the gifts going before his presence, and afterwards I will behold his face, for possibly he will accept me. So the presence went on before him, but he himself lodged that night in the camp. And he rose up in that night, and took his 2 wives and his 2 maidservants, and his 11 children, and crossed over the ford of Jabbok. And he took them, and passed over the torrent, and brought over all his belongings. Jacob was left alone, and one wrestled with him till the morning. And he saw that he prevailed not against him, so he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated in his wrestling with him. And he said to him, Let me go, for the day has dawned. But he said, I will not let you go, except you bless me. And he said to him, What is your name? And he answered, Jacob. And he said to him, Your name will no longer be called Jacob, but Israel will be your name, for you have prevailed with a mighty one, and will be mighty among men. And Jacob asked and said, Tell me your name. And he said, Why do you ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of that place, the face of a mighty one, for said he, I have seen a mighty one face to face, and my life was preserved. And the sun rose upon him, when he passed the face of a mighty one, and he halted upon his hip. Therefore the children of Israel will by no means eat of the sinew of which was dislocated, that is the socket of the hip until this day. Because the angel touched the socket of Jacob's right hip, even the sinew which was dislocated. Chapter 32. And Jacob lifted up his eyes, and beheld, and lo, Esau his brother coming, and 400 men with him, and Jacob divided the children to Leah and to Rachel, and the 2 handmaidens. And he put the 2 handmaidens and their children with the first drove, and Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. But he advanced himself before them, and did obeisance to the ground 7 times, until he drew near to his brother. And Esau ran on to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they both wept. And Esau looked up and saw the women and the children, and said, Who are these to you? And he said, The children with which God has mercifully blessed your servant. And the maidservants and their children drew near and did obeisance. And Leah and her children drew near and did obeisance, and after this drew near Rachel and Joseph, and did obeisance. And he said, What are these droves to you, all these companies, that I have met? And he said, That your servant might find grace in your sight, my lord. And Esau said, I have much, my brother, keep your own. And Jacob said, If I have found grace in your sight, receive the gifts through my hands. I have seen your face, as if anyone should see the face of a mighty one, and you will be well pleased with me. Receive my blessings, which I have brought you, because God has had mercy on me, and I have all things. And he insisted, so he took them. And he said, Let us depart, and proceed onward. And he said to him, My Lord knows that the children are very tender, and the flocks and the herds with me are with young. If then I will drive them hard one day, all the cattle will die. Let my Lord go on before his servant, and I will have the duration on the road according to the difficulty of the journey before me, and according to the strength of the children, until I come to my Lord to Seir. And Esau said, I will leave with you some of the people who are with me. And he said, Why so? It is enough, that I have found favor before you, my Lord. And Esau returned on that day on his journey to Seir. And Jacob departs to his tents, and he made for himself habitations, and for his cattle he made booths. Therefore he called the name of that place, Booths. And Jacob came to Salem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he departed out of Mesopotamia of Syria, and took up a position in front of the city. And he bought the parcel of field, where he pitched his tent, from Hamor the father of Shechem for 100 lambs. And he set up there an altar, and called on the God of Israel. Chapter 33. And Dinah the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went out to observe the daughters of the inhabitants. And Shechem the son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of the land, saw her, and took her and lay with her, and humbled her. And he was attached to the soul of Dinah the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and he spoke kindly to the damsel. Shechem spoke to Hamor his father, saying, Get me this damsel to be my woman. And Jacob heard that the son of Hamor had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the plain. and Jacob was silent until they came. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out to Jacob to speak to him. And the sons of Jacob came from the plain, and when they heard, the men were deeply pained, and it was very grievous to them, because the man brought folly in Israel, having lain with the daughter of Jacob, and so it must not be. And Hamor spoke to them, saying, Shechem my son has chosen your daughter in his heart, give her, therefore, to him for a woman, and intermarry with us. Give us your daughters, and take our daughters for your sons. And dwell in the midst of us, and, behold, the land is spacious before you, dwell in it, and trade, and get properties in it. And Shechem said to her father and to her brothers, I would find grace before you, and we will give whatever you will name. Increase your demand of dowry, and I will pay however much you ask of me, only give me this damsel for a woman. But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father sneakily, because they had defiled Dinah their sister. And Simeon and Levi, the brothers of Dinah, said to them, We will not be able to do this thing, to give our sister to a man who is uncircumcised, for it is a reproach to us. Only on these terms will we conform to you, and dwell among you, if you also will be as we are, in that every male gets circumcised. And we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for wives to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will be as one race. But if you will not hearken to us to be circumcised, we will take our daughter and depart. And the words pleased Hamor, and Shechem the son of Hamor. And the young man delayed not to do this thing, for he was much attached to Jacob's daughter, and he was the most honorable of all in his father's house. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and spoke to the men of their city, saying, These men are peaceable, let them dwell with us upon the land, and let them trade in it. And behold, the land is extensive before them, we will take their daughters to us for wives, and we will give them our daughters. Only on these terms will the men conform to us to dwell with us, so as to be one people. If every male of us be circumcised, as they also are circumcised, and will not their cattle and their herds, and their possessions, be ours? Only let us conform to them, and they will dwell with us. And all that went in at the gate of their city regarded Hamor and Shechem his son, and they were circumcised in the flesh of their foreskin every male. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were in pain, the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took each man his sword, and came upon the city viciously, and slew every male. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of the house of Shechem, and left. But the sons of Jacob came upon the wounded, and ravaged the city, where they had defiled Dinah their sister. And their sheep, their oxen, their donkeys they took, all things that were in the city, whatever was in the plain. And they took captive all the persons of them, and all their store, and their wives, and plundered both everything there in the city, and everything in the houses. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You have made me odious, so that I should be a criminal to all the inhabitants of the land, both among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I am few in number. They will gather themselves against me and cut me in pieces, and I will be utterly destroyed, and my house. And they said, Nay, but will they treat our sister as a harlot? Chapter 34. And God said to Jacob, Arise, go up to the place, Bethel, and dwell there, and make an altar to the God that appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Jacob said to his house, and to all that were with him, Remove the strange gods that are with you from the midst of you, and purify yourselves, and change your clothes. And let us rise and go up to Bethel, and let us there make an altar to God who noticed me in the day of calamity, who was with me, and preserved me throughout in the journey, by which I went. And they gave to Jacob the strange gods, which were in their hands, and the earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the turpentine tree which is in Shechem, and destroyed them to this day. So Israel departed from Shechem, and the fear of God was upon the cities around them, and they did not pursue after the children of Israel. And Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, which is Bethel, he and all the people that were with him. And he built an altar, and called the name of the place Bethel, for there God appeared to him, when he fled from the face of his brother Esau. And Ebrah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and was buried below Bethel under the oak, and Jacob called its name, the Oak of Mourning. And God appeared to Jacob once more in Luz, when he came out of Mesopotamia of Syria, and God blessed him. And God said to him, Your name will not be called Jacob, but Israel will be your name. And he called his name Israel. And God said to him, I am your God, be fruitful and multiply, for nations and gatherings of Gentiles will be of you, and kings will come out of your loins. And the land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I have given it to you, and it will come to pass that I will give this land also to your seed after you. And God went up from the place where he spoke with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where God spoke with him, even a pillar of stone, and offered a libation upon it, and poured oil upon it. And Jacob called the name of the place in which God spoke with him, Bethel. And Jacob moved from Bethel, and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Gader. And it came to pass, when he drew close to Chibratha, to enter into Ephrath, Rachel travailed, and in her travail she was in hard labor. And it came to pass in her hard labor, that the midwife said to her, Be of good courage, for you will also have this son. And it came to pass in her give up her spirit, for she was dying, that she called his name, the son of my pain, but his father called his name Benjamin. So Rachel died, and was buried in the way of the course of Ephrath, this is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar on her tomb, this is the pillar on the tomb of Rachel, until this day. And it came to pass when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, the concubine of his father Jacob, and Israel heard, and the thing appeared grievous before him. And the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, the firstborn of Jacob, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. And the sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, the handmaid of Rachel, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, the handmaid of Leah, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Mesopotamia of Syria. And Jacob came to Isaac his father in Mamre, a city of the plain, this is Hebron in the land of Canaan, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. And the days of Isaac which he lived were 180 years. And Isaac gave up his spirit and died, and was laid to his family, old and full of days, and Esau and Jacob his sons buried him. Chapter 35. And these are the generations of Esau, also called Edom. And Esau took to himself wives of the daughters of the Canaanites, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Aholibamah, daughter of Anah the son of Zibeon, the Hivite, and Basemath, daughter of Ismail, sister of Nabaioth. And Adah bore to him Eliphaz, and Basemath bore Reuel. And Aholibamah bore Jush, and Jalem, and Kor, these are the sons of Esau, which were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the persons of his house, and all his possessions, and all his cattle, and all that he had got, and all things whatever he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and Esau went out from the land of Canaan, from the face of his brother Jacob, for their substance was too great for them to dwell together, and the land of their sojourning could not bear them, because of the abundance of their belongings. And Esau dwelt in Mount Seir, Esau, he is Edom. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of Edom in the Mount Seir. And these are the names of the sons of Esau: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the woman of Esau, and Reuel, the son of Basemath, woman of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Jalem, Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Adah, the woman of Esau. And these are the sons of Reuel, Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These were the sons of Basemath, woman of Esau. And these are the sons of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the son of Zibeon, the woman of Esau, and she bore to Esau Jush, and Jalem, and Korah. These are the chiefs of the son of Esau, even the sons of Eliphaz. The firstborn of Esau, chief Teman, chief Omar, chief Jalem, chief Kenaz, chief Korah, chief Gatam, chief Amalek. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom, these are the sons of Adah. And these are the sons of Reuel, the son of Esau, chief Nahath, chief Zerah, chief Shammah, chief Mizah. These are the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom, these are the sons of Basemath, woman of Esau. And these are the sons of Aholibamah, woman of Esau, chief Jush, chief Jalem, chief Korah. These are the chiefs of Aholibamah, daughter of Anah, woman of Esau. These are the sons of Esau, and these are the chiefs, the sons of Edom. And these are the sons of Seir the Horite who inhabited the land: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishon, Ezer, Dishon. These are the chiefs of the Horite, the son of Seir, in the land of Edom. And the sons of Lotan: Hori and Hammam, and the sister of Lotan is Timnah. These are the sons of Shobal: Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. These are the sons of Zibeon, and Anah, who discovered the hot springs in the wilderness, where he pastured the donkeys of his father Zibeon. These are the children of Anah, Dishon and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the sons of Dishon, Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Kiran. These are the sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan, and Akan. These are the sons of Dishon, Uz and Aran. These are the chiefs of the Horites, chief Lotan, chief Shobal, chief Zibeon, chief Anah, chief Dishon, chief Ezer, chief Dishon. These were the chiefs of the Horites, according to their chief lists in the land of Seir. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king ruled over the Israelites. Bela the son of Beer reigned in Edom. The name of his city was Dinhabah. When Bela died, Jobab the son of Zerah from Bozrah reigned in his place. When Jobab died, Husham from the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. When Husham died, Hadad the son of Bedad, who defeated the Midianites in the land of Moab, reigned in his place. The name of his city was Avith. When Hadad died, Samlah from Misrekah reigned in his place. When Samlah died, Shaul from Rehoboth by the river reigned in his place. When Shaul died, Baal-Hanan the son of Achbor reigned in his place. When Baal-Hanan the son of Achbor died, Hadad reigned in his place. The name of his city was Pau. His woman's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. These were the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their families, according to their places, by their names. Chief Timnah, Chief Alva, Chief Jetheth, Chief Aholibamah, Chief Elah, Chief Pinan, Chief Kenaz, Chief Teman, Chief Mibzar, Chief Magiel, Chief Iram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their settlements in the land they possessed. This was Esau, the father of the Edomites. Chapter 36. And Jacob dwelt in the land where his father sojourned, in the land of Canaan. And these are the generations of Jacob. When Joseph was 17 years old, when he was feeding the sheep of his father with his brothers being young, with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, the wives of his father, and Joseph brought to Israel their father a bad report about them. And Jacob loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was to him the son of old age, and he made for him a coat of many colors. And his brothers, having seen that his father loved him more than all his sons, hated him, and could not speak anything peaceable to him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and reported it to his brothers. And he said to them, Hear this dream which I have dreamed. I thought you were binding sheaves in the middle of the field, and my sheaf stood up and was erected, and your sheaves turned round, and did obeisance to my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, Will you indeed reign over us, or will you indeed be lord over us? And they hated him still more for his dreams, and for his words. And he dreamed another dream, and related it to his father, and to his brothers, and said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream, as it were the sun, and the moon, and the 11 stars did me obeisance. And his father rebuked him, and said to him, What is this dream which you have dreamed? Will indeed both I and your mother and your brothers come, and bow before you to the earth? And his brothers envied him, but his father observed the saying. And his brothers went to feed the sheep of their father in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Do not your brothers feed their flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. And he said to him, Behold, I am here. And Israel said to him, Go and see if your brothers and the sheep are well, and bring me word. And he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a man found him wandering in the field, and the man asked him, saying, What are you seeking? And he said, I am seeking my brothers, tell me where they feed their flocks. And the man said to him, They have departed from here, for I heard them saying, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brothers, and found them in Dothan. And they spied him from a distance, before he drew close to them, and they wickedly conspired to slay him. And each said to his brother, Behold, that dreamer comes. Now then come, let us kill him, and cast him into one of the pits, and we will say, An evil wild beast has devoured him, and we will see what his dreams will be. And Reuben, having heard it, rescued him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, Shed no blood, cast him into one of these pits in the wilderness, but do not lay your hand upon him. Saying this, Reuben hoped he might rescue him out of their hands, and restore him to his father. And it came to pass, when Joseph came to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his many-colored coat that was upon him. And they took him, and cast him into the pit, and the pit was empty, it had no water. And they sat down to eat bread, and having lifted up their eyes they beheld, and lo, Ishmaelites travelers came from Gilead, and their camels were heavily loaded with spices, and resin, and myrrh, and to bring to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it, if we slay our brother, and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to these Ishmaelites, but do not let our hands be upon him, because he is our brother, and our flesh and his brothers accepted. And the men the merchants of Midian went by, and they drew and lifted Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of gold, and they brought Joseph down into Egypt. And Reuben returned to the pit, and did not see Joseph in the pit, and he tore his garments. And he returned to his brothers and said, The boy is gone. Oh my, where am I yet to look? And having taken the coat of Joseph, they slew a kid of the goats, and stained the coat with the blood. And they took the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, This have we found. Know if it is your son's coat, or no. And he recognized it, and said, It is my son's coat, an evil wild beast has devoured him, a wild beast has carried off Joseph. And Jacob tore his clothes, and put sackcloth on his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and his daughters gathered themselves together, and came to comfort him, but he would not be comforted, saying, I will go down to my son mourning to Hades. And his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold Joseph into Egypt to Potiphar, the eunuch of Pharaoh, captain of the guard. Chapter 37. And it came to pass at that time, that Judah went down from his brothers, and came as far as to a certain man of Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there the daughter of a Canaanite man, whose name was Shua, and he took her, and went into her. And she conceived and bore a son, and called his name And she conceived and bore a son again, and called his name Onan. And she again bore a son, and called his name Shelah, and she was in Kezib when she bore them. And Judah took a woman for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And the firstborn of Judah was wicked before Yahuwah, so God killed him. And Judah said to Onan, Go into your brother's woman, and marry her as her brother-in-law, and raise up seed to your brother. And Onan, knowing that the seed should not be his, it came to pass when he went into his brother's woman, that he spilled his seed upon the ground, so that he should not give seed to his brother's woman. And his doing this appeared evil before God, and he slew him also. And Judah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Go sit as widow in the house of your father-in-law, until Shelah my son be grown. For he said, If perhaps he also die as his brothers. And Tamar departed, and sat in the house of her father. And the days were fulfilled, and Shua the woman of Judah died, and Judah being comforted, went to them that shear his sheep in Timnah himself, and Hira his shepherd the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar his daughter-in-law, saying, Behold, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And having taken off the garments of her widowhood from her, she put on a veil, and decorated her face, and sat by the gates of Enaim, which is in the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah was grown, but he gave her not to him for a woman. And when Judah saw her, he thought she is a harlot, for she covered her face, and he knew her not. And he went out of his way to her, and said to her, Let me come into you. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law, and she said, What will you give me, if you should come into me? And he said, I will send you a kid of the goats from my flock. And she said, Well, if you will give me a deposit, until you send it. And he said, What is the deposit that I will give you? And she said, Your ring, and your bracelet, and the staff in your hand. And he gave them to her, and went into her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and departed, and took her veil from off her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid of the goats by the hand of his shepherd the Adullamite, to get back the pledge from the woman, and he found her not. And he asked the men of the place, Where is the harlot who was in Enaim by the road? And they said, There was no harlot here. And he returned to Judah and said, I have not found her. And the men of the place say, There is no harlot here. And Judah said, Let her have them, but let us not be mocked. I send this kid, but you have not found her. And it came to pass after 3 months, that it was told to Judah, saying, Tamar your daughter-in-law has played the harlot, and behold she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her out, and let her be burnt. And as they were bringing her, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, I am with child by the man whose these things belong. And she said, See whose are this ring and bracelet and staff. And Judah knew them, and said, Tamar is cleared rather than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son. And he knew her not again. And it came to pass, when she was in labor, that she also had twins in her womb. And it came to pass as she was giving birth, one thrust out his hand, and the midwife having taken hold of it, bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This one will come out first. And when he drew back his hand, then immediately his brother came out, and she said, Why has the barrier been breached because of you? And she called his name Peretz. And after this came out his brother, on whose hand was the scarlet thread, and she called his name Zerah. Chapter 38. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar the eunuch of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, who brought him down there. And Yahuwah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house with his lord the Egyptian. And his master knew that Yahuwah was with him, and Yahuwah prospers his hands in whatever he happens to do. And Joseph found grace in the presence of his Lord, and was well-pleasing to him, and he set him over his house, and all that he had he gave into the hand of Joseph. And it came to pass after that he was set over his house, and over all that he had, that Yahuwah blessed the house of the Egyptian for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of Yahuwah was on all his belongings in the house, and in his field. And he committed all he had into the hands of Joseph, and he gave no thought to anything that belonged to Potiphar, except the bread which he ate. And Joseph was handsome in form, and exceedingly beautiful in countenance. And it came to pass after these things, that his master's woman cast her eyes upon Joseph, and said, Lie with me. But he would not, but said to his master's woman, Because of me my master gives no thought to anything in his house, and has given into my hands all things that belong to him, and in this house there is nothing above me, nor has anything been kept back from me, but you, because you are his woman. How then will I do this wicked thing, and sin against God? And when she talked with Joseph day by day, and he did not regard her to sleep with her, so as to be with her, it came to pass on a certain day, that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was no one of the household within. And she caught hold of him by his clothes, and said, Lie with me. And having left his clothes in her hands, he fled, and went out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his clothes in her hands, and fled, and gone out, that she called those that were in the house, and spoke to them, saying, See, he has brought into us a Hebrew servant to mock us. He came into me, saying, Lie with me. And I cried with a loud voice. And when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, having left his clothes with me, he fled, and went out. So she leaves the clothes by her, until the master of the house came. And she spoke to him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant, whom you brought into us, came into me to mock me, and said to me, I will lie with you. And when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, having left his clothes with me, he fled and departed out. And it came to pass, when his master heard all the words of his woman, that she spoke to him, saying, Thus did your servant to me, he became very angry. And his master took Joseph, and cast him into the prison, into the place where the king's prisoners are kept, there in the prison. But Yahuwah was with Joseph, and poured down mercy upon him, and he gave him favor in the sight of the chief keeper of the prison. And the chief keeper of the prison gave the prison into the hand of Joseph, and all the prisoners as many as were in the prison, and all things whatever they do there, he did them. Because of him the chief keeper of the prison knew nothing, for all things were in the hand of Joseph, because Yahuwah was with him, and whatever things he did, Yahuwah made them to prosper in his hands. Chapter 39. And it came to pass after these things, that the chief cupbearer of the king of Egypt and the chief baker trespassed against their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth with his 2 eunuchs, with his chief cupbearer, and with his chief baker. And he put them in a ward, into the prison, into the place where Joseph had been led. And the chief warden of the prison committed them to Joseph, and he stood by them, and they were some days in the prison. And they both had a dream in one night, and the vision of the dream of the chief cupbearer and chief baker, who belonged to the king of Egypt, who were in the prison, was this. Joseph went to them in the morning, and saw them, and they were troubled. And he asked the eunuchs of Pharaoh who were with him in the prison with his master, saying, Why is it that you look so sad today? And they said to him, We have seen a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said to them, Is not the interpretation of them through God? Tell them to me. And the chief cupbearer related his dream to Joseph, and said, In my dream a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 stems, and budding it shot out blossoms, the clusters of grapes were ripe. And the cup of Pharaoh was in my hand, and I took the bunch of grapes, and squeezed it into the cup, and gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 stems are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will remember your office, and he will restore you to your place of chief cupbearer, and you will give the cup of Pharaoh into his hand, according to your former high place, as you did when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it will be well with you, and you will deal mercifully with me, and you will make mention of me to Pharaoh, and you will bring me out of this dungeon. For surely I was stolen away from the dwellers of the ones across the river, and here I have done nothing, but they have cast me into this pit. And the chief baker saw that he interpreted right, and he said to Joseph, I also saw a dream, and I dreamt I took up on my head 3 baskets of white meal. And in the upper basket there was every king of baked goods which Pharaoh eats, and the fowls of the air ate them out of the basket that was on my head. And Joseph answered and said to him, This is the interpretation of it, the 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet 3 days, and Pharaoh will take away your head from off you, and will hang you on a tree, and the birds of the sky will eat your flesh from off you. And it came to pass on the 3rd day, that it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he made a banquet for all his servants, and he remembered the office of the cupbearer, and the office of the baker in the midst of his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his office, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Chapter 40. And it came to pass after 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream. He thought he stood upon the bank of the river. And lo, there came up as it were out of the river 7 cows, fair in appearance, and choice of flesh, and they fed on the sedge. And other 7 cows came up after these out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and fed by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the 7 ill-favored and lean cows devoured the 7 well-favored and choice-fleshed cows, and Pharaoh awoke, and he dreamed again. And, behold, 7 ears came up on one stalk, choice and good. And, behold, 7 ears thin, and blasted with the wind, grew up after them. And the 7 thin ears and blasted with the wind, devoured the 7 choice and full ears, and Pharaoh awoke, and it was a dream. And in the morning his soul was troubled, so he sent and called all the magicians of Egypt, and all her wise men, and Pharaoh related to them his dream, and there was no one to interpret it to Pharaoh. And the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I this day remember my fault. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and put us in prison in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker. And we had a dream both in one night, I and he, we saw each according to his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew servant of the captain of the guard, and we related to him our dreams, and he interpreted them to us. And it came to pass, as he interpreted them to us, so also it happened, both that I was restored to my office, and that he was hanged. And Pharaoh called for Joseph, and they brought him out from the prison, and shaved him, and changed his dress, and he came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have seen a vision, and there is no one to interpret it, but I have heard concerning you that you hear dreams and interpret them. And Joseph answered Pharaoh and said, Without God an answer will not be given to the welfare of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, In my dream I stood by the bank of the river, and there came up as it were, out of the river, 7 cows well-favored and choice-fleshed, and they grazed on the reeds. And behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, evil and ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such that I never saw worse in all the land of Egypt. And the 7 ill-favored and thin cows ate up the 7 first good and choice cows. And they ate them up, and it did not look like they had eaten, and their appearance was ill-favored, as it was at the beginning. And after I awoke, I slept, and I saw again in my sleep, and as it were 7 ears came up on one stem, full and good. And 7 other ears, thin and blasted with the wind, sprang up close to them. And the 7 thin and blasted ears devoured the 7 fine and full ears, so I spoke to the mystics, and there was no one to explain it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one, whatever God does, he is shown to Pharaoh. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, the dream of Pharaoh is one. And the 7 thin cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 thin and blasted ears are 7 years, there will be 7 years of famine. And as for the word which I have told Pharaoh, whatever God intends to do, he is shown to Pharaoh. Behold, for 7 years there is coming great plenty in all the land of Egypt. But then there will come 7 years of famine, and they will forget the plenty that will be in all Egypt, and the famine will consume the land. And the plenty will not be known in the land by reason of the famine that will be after this, for it will be very grievous. And concerning the repetition of the dream to Pharaoh twice, it is because the saying which is from God will be true, and God will hurry to accomplish it. Now then, look out a wise and prudent man, and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh make and appoint local governors over the land, and let them take up a 5th part of all the produce of the land of Egypt, for the 7 years of the plenty. And let them gather all the food of these 7 good years that are coming, and let the corn be gathered under the hand of Pharaoh, let food be kept in the cities. And the stored food will be for the land against the 7 years of famine, which will be in the land of Egypt, and the land will not be utterly destroyed by the famine. And the word was pleasing in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to all his servants, Will we find such a man as this, who has the Spirit of God in him? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has shown you all these things, there is not a wiser or more prudent man than you. You will be over my house, and all my people will be obedient to your word, only in the throne will I excel you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Behold, I set you this day over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took his ring off his hand, and put it on the hand of Joseph, and put on him a robe of fine linen, and put a necklace of gold about his neck. And he mounted him on the second in command of his chariots, and a herald cried out before him, Bow down, and he set him over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, without your permission no one will lift up his hand in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called the name of Joseph Zaphanath-Paneah, and he gave him Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of Heliopolis, to be his woman. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went through all the land of Egypt. And the land produced, in the 7 years of plenty, an abundance of corn. And he gathered all the food of the 7 years, of which there was plenty in the land of Egypt, and he laid up the food in the cities. In every city he put the food gathered from the fields around it. And Joseph gathered very much corn as the sand of the sea, until it could not be numbered, for there was no number of it. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the 7 years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of Heliopolis, bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God, said he, has made me forget all my toils and all my father's house. And he called the name of the second Ephraim, for God, said he, has increased me in the land of my humiliation. And the 7 years of plenty passed away, which were in the land of Egypt. And the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph said, there was a famine in all the land, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And all the land of Egypt was hungry, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph, and do whatever he will tell you. And the famine was on the face of all the earth, and Joseph opened all the granaries, and sold to all the Egyptians. And all countries came to Egypt to buy of Joseph, for the famine prevailed in all the earth. Chapter 41. And Jacob, having seen that there was a sale of corn in Egypt, said to his sons, Why are you idle? Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Go down there, and buy for us a little food, that we may live, and not die. And the 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy corn out of Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, with his brothers, because he said, What if a calamity occurs to him? So the sons of Israel came to buy with other buyers, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was ruler of the land, he sold to all the people of the land. And the brothers of Joseph, having come, did obeisance to him, bowing with the face to the ground. And when Joseph saw his brothers, he knew them, but pretended to be a stranger to them, and spoke hard words to them, and said to them, From where do you come? And they said, Out of the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brothers, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered his dream about them, where he foresaw. And he said to them, You are spies, you have come to spy out the weakness of the land. But they said, Nay, sir, we your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man, we are peaceable, your servants are not spies. And he said to them, Nay, but you have come to spy out the weakness of the land. And they said, We your servants are 12 brothers from the land of Canaan, and, behold, the youngest is with our father today, but the other one is not. And Joseph said to them, This is why I said to you, saying, You are spies, here is how you will be tested, by the life of Pharaoh, you will not depart from here, unless your younger brother come here. Send one of you, and get your brother, while the others wait in prison, till your words be clear, whether you speak the truth or not. But, if not, by the health of Pharaoh, assuredly you are spies. And he put them in prison 3 days. And he said to them on the 3rd day, This do, and you will live, for I fear God. If you be peaceable, let one of your brothers be detained in prison, but go and carry back the corn you have purchased. And bring your youngest brother to me, and your words will be believed, but, if not, you will die. And they did so. And each said to his brother, Yes, indeed, for we are at fault concerning our brother. When we disregarded the anguish of his soul, when he begged us, and we did not regard him, that is why this affliction come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Did I not speak to you, saying, Hurt not the boy, and you did not listen to me? And, behold, his blood is required. But they did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. And Joseph turned away from them, and wept, and again he came to them, and spoke to them, and he took Simeon from them, and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their vessels with corn, and to return their money to each into his sack, and to give them provision for the way, and it was so done to them. And having put the corn on the donkeys, they departed. And one of them opened his sack, to give his donkeys fodder. At the place where they rested, he saw the bundle of money, for it was in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, My money has been restored to me, and behold, this is in my sack. And their hearts sank, and they were troubled, saying one to another, What is this that God has done to us? And they came to their father, Jacob, into the land of Canaan, and reported to him all that had happened to them, saying, The man, the lord of the land, spoke harsh words to us, and put us in prison as spies of the land. And we said to him, We are men of peace, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father, one is not, and the youngest is with his father today in the land of Canaan. And the man, the lord of the land, said to us, Herein will I know that you are peaceable, leave one brother here with me, and having taken the corn you have purchased for your family, depart. And bring to me your younger brother, then I will know that you are not spies, but that you are men of peace. And I will restore you your brother, and you will trade in the land. And it came to pass as they were emptying their sacks, there was each man's bundle of money in his sack. And they and their father saw their bundles of money, and they were afraid. And their father Jacob said to them, You have bereaved me. Joseph is not, Simeon is not, and will you take Benjamin? All these things have come upon me. And Reuben spoke to his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons, if I do not bring him to you, give him into my hand, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, My son will not go down with you, because his brother is dead, and he is the only one left, and suppose it come to pass that tragedy befall him in the way which you go, then you will bring down my old age with sorrow to Hades. Chapter 42. But the famine prevailed in the land. And it came to pass, when they had finished eating the corn that they had brought out from Egypt, that their father said to them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spoke to him, saying, The man, the lord of that country, positively attested to us, saying, You will not see my face, unless your younger brother be with you. If, then, you send our brother with us, we will go down, and buy you food. But if you send not our brother with us, we will not go. For the man spoke to us, saying, You will not see my face, unless your younger brother be with you. And Israel said, Why did you bring me this trouble, insofar as you told the man, that you had a brother? And they said, The man closely questioned us about our family also, saying, Does your father yet live, and have you a brother? And we answered him according to this question, Did we know that he would say to us, Bring your brother? And Judah said to his father Israel, Send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and our store. And I give you a surety for him, at my hand I pledge him back to you. If I do not bring him to you, and place him before you, I will be guilty toward you forever. For if we had not waited, we should now have returned twice. And Israel, their father, said to them, If it be so, do this, take of the fruits of the earth in your vessels, and carry down to the man presents of gum and honey, and frankincense, and stacked, and turpentine, and walnuts. And take double money in your hands, and the money that was returned in your sacks, carry back with you, if perhaps it is a mistake. And take your brother, and arise, go down to the man. And my God give you favor in the sight of the man, and send away your other brother, and Benjamin, for I because of this, I have been bereaved, and am bereaved. And the men took the presents, and the double money, and also took in their hands Benjamin, and they rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And Joseph saw them, and his brother Benjamin, born of the same mother, and he said to the steward of his household, Bring the men into the house, and slay beasts and make ready, for the men are to eat bread with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said, and he brought the men into the house of Joseph. And the men, when they saw that they were being brought into the house of Joseph, said, We are brought in, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first, even in order to accuse us and bring a charge against us, to capture us for servants, and take our donkeys. And having approached the man who was over the house of Joseph, they spoke to him on the porch of the house, saying, We pray you, sir, we came down at first to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to rest, we opened our sacks, there was this money in each of our sacks, we have now brought back the money by weight in our hands. And we have brought other money with us to buy food, we do not know who put the money in our sacks. And he said to them, God deal mercifully with you, do not be afraid, your God, and the God of your fathers, has given you treasures in your sacks, and I have enough of your good money. And he brought Simeon out to them. And he brought water to wash their feet, and gave provender to their donkeys. And they prepared their gifts, for when Joseph to come at noon, for they heard that he was going to dine there. And Joseph entered into the house, and they brought him the gifts which they had in their hands into the house, and they did him obeisance with their face to the ground. And he asked them, How are you? And he said to them, Is your father, the old man of whom you spoke, well? Does he yet live? And they said, Your servant our father is well, he is yet alive. And he said, Blessed be that man by God. And they bowed, and did him obeisance. And Joseph lifted up his eyes, and saw his brother Benjamin, born of the same mother, and he said, Is this your younger brother, whom you spoke of bringing to me? And he said, God have mercy on you, my son. And Joseph was anxious, for his bowels yearned over his brother, and he wanted to weep, and he went into his chamber, and wept there. And he washed his face and came out, and refrained himself, and said, Set on bread. And they set out bread for him alone, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians feasting with him by themselves, for the Egyptians could not eat bread with shepherds, for it is an abomination to the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his seniority, and the younger according to his youth, and the men looked with amazement everyone at his brother. And they took their portions for themselves, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as the portions of the others. And they drank and got drunk with him. Chapter 43. And Joseph charged the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put the money of each in the mouth of his sack. And put my silver cup into the sack of the youngest, and the money for his corn. And it was done according to the word of Joseph, as he said. The morning dawned, and the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. And when they had gone out of the city, and were not far off, then Joseph said to his steward, Arise, and pursue after the men, and you overtake them, and say to them, Why have you returned evil for good? Why have you stolen my silver cup? Is not this of which my Lord drinks? And he discerns divination with it. You have accomplished evil in that which you have done. And he found them, and spoke to them according to these words. And they said to him, Why does our Lord speak according to these words? Far be it from your servants to do according to this word. If we brought back to you out of the land of Canaan the money which we found in our sacks, why should we steal silver or gold out of the house of your Lord? With whomever of your servants you find the cup, let him die, and, moreover, we will be servants to our Lord. And he said, Now then it will be as you say, with whomever the cup will be found, he will be my servant, and you will be clear. And they hurried, and took down every man his sack to the ground, and they opened every man his sack. And he searched, beginning from the eldest, until he came to the youngest, and he found the cup in Benjamin's sack. And they tore their garments, and laid each man his sack on his donkey, and returned to the city. And Judah and his brothers came to Joseph, while he was still there, and fell on the ground before him. And Joseph said to them, What is this thing that you have done? Know you not that a man such as I can surely divine? And Judah said, What will we answer to our Lord, or what will we say, or where should we be justified? Seeing God has discovered the unrighteousness of your servants, behold, we are slaves to our Lord, both we and he with whom the cup has been found. And Joseph said, Far be it from me to do this thing, the man with whom the cup has been found, he will be my servant, but you go up with safety to your father. And Judah drew near him, and said, I pray, sir, let your servant speak a word before you, and do not be angry with your servant, for you are next to Pharaoh. Sir, you ask your servants, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my lord, We have a father, an old man, and he has a son of his old age, a young one, and his brother is dead, and he alone has been left behind to his mother, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, and I will take care of him. And we said to my lord, The child will not be able to leave his father, but if he should leave his father, he will die. But you said to your servants, Except your younger brother come down with you, you will not see my face again. And it came to pass, when we went up to your servant our father, we reported to him the words of our Lord. And our father said, Go again, and buy us a little food. And we said, We will not be able to go down, except if our younger brother goes with us, we will go down, for we will not be able to see the man's face, if our younger brother is not with us. And your servant our father said to us, You know that my woman bore me 2 sons, and one is departed from me, and you said that he was devoured of wild beasts, and I have not seen him until now. If then you take this one also from my presence, and a tragedy befall him by the way, then will you bring down my old age with sorrow to the grave. Now then, if I should go into your servant, and our father, and the boy should not be with us, and his life depends on this lad's life, it will even come to pass, when he sees the boy is not with us, that he will die, and your servants will bring down the old age of your servant, and our father, with sorrow to the grave. For your servant has made a pledge to be given charge over the boy, while he is away from his father, saying, If I do not bring him to you and place him before you, I will be guilty towards my father forever. Now then I will remain a servant with you instead of the lad, a domestic of my lord, but let the lad go up with his brothers. For how will I go up to my father, the lad not being with us? If perhaps I behold the evils which will befall my father. Chapter 44. And Joseph could not refrain himself, when all were standing by him, but said, Dismiss all the servants from me. And no one stood near Joseph, when he made himself known to his brothers. And he uttered his voice with weeping, and all the Egyptians heard, and it was reported to the house of Pharaoh. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph, does my father yet live? And his brothers could not answer him, for they were troubled. And Joseph said to his brothers, Draw close to me. And they drew close, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now then do not be grieved, and let it not seem hard to you that you sold me here, for God sent me before you for life. For this second year there is famine on the earth, and there are yet 5 years remaining, in which there will be neither plowing, nor harvesting. For God sent me before you, that there might be left to you a remnant upon the earth, even to nourish a great remnant of you. Now then you did not send me here, but God, and he has made me as a father of Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler of all the land of Egypt. Hurry, and go to my father, and say to him, Your son Joseph says these things, God has made me lord of all the land of Egypt, come here to me, and do not wait. And you will dwell in the land of Goshen of Arabia, and you will be near me, you and your sons, and your sons' sons, your sheep and your oxen, and whatever things of yours. And I will nourish you here, for the famine is for 5 more years, so that you will not be consumed, and your sons, and all your belongings. Behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaks to you. Report therefore to my father all my glory in Egypt, and everything that you have seen, and hurry, bring my father down here. And he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept on him, and Benjamin wept on his neck. And he kissed all his brothers, and wept on them, and after these things his brothers spoke to him. And the report was carried into the house of Pharaoh, saying, Joseph's brothers have come, and Pharaoh was glad, and his household. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say to your brothers, Do this, fill your wagons, and depart into the land of Canaan. And get your father and your belongings, and come to me, and I will give you of all the goods of Egypt, and you will eat the marrow of the land. You are also commanded to say, Take for yourselves wagons out of the land of Egypt, for your little ones, and for your wives, and get your father, and come. And do not regard your property, for all the good of Egypt will be yours. And the children of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons, according to the words spoken by King Pharaoh, and he gave them provision for the journey. And he gave them all 2 sets of raiment apiece, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of gold, and 5 changes of raiment. And to his father he sent presents the same amount, 10 donkeys bearing some of all the good things of Egypt, and 10 mules bearing bread for his father for the journey. And he sent away his brothers, and as they went, he said to them, Be not angry by the way. And they departed from Egypt and came into the land of Canaan, to Jacob their father. And they reported to him, saying, Your son Joseph is living, and he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob was astonished, for he did not believe them. They told him all the words spoken by Joseph, and everything he said to them, and having seen the chariots which Joseph sent to take him up, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is a great thing for me, if Joseph my son is yet alive, I will go and see him before I die. Chapter 45. And Israel departed, he and all that he had, and came to the well of the oath, and he offered sacrifice to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in a night vision, saying, Jacob, Jacob, and he said, Here I am. And he said to him, I am the God of your fathers, do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you great Gentiles. And I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will bring you back from there, and Joseph will close your eyes with his hand when you die. And Jacob rose up from the well of the oath, and the sons of Israel took up their father, and the baggage, and their wives on the wagons, which Joseph sent to get them. And they took up their goods, and all their property, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, they came into the land of Egypt, and all of Jacob's seed was with him. the sons of his sons with him, his daughters and the daughters of his daughters, and he brought all his seed into Egypt. And these are the names of the sons of Israel that went into Egypt with their father Jacob, Jacob and his sons. The firstborn of Jacob, Reuben. The sons of Reuben are Hanoch, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul the son of a Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi are Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Judah are Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah, but and Onan died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Perez are Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Issachar are Tola, Puah, Jashub, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun are Serd, Elon, and Jaleel. These are the sons of Li, which he bore to Jacob in Mesopotamia of Syria, and Dinah his daughter, all the souls, sons and daughters, 33. The sons of Gad are Zephon, Haggi, Shuni, Esban, Eri, Arodi, and Areli. The sons of Asher are Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and Sarah their sister. The sons of Beriah were Heber and Malchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter. She bore these to Jacob, 16 in all. The sons of Rachel the woman of Jacob, Joseph and Benjamin. Manasseh and Ephraim were born to Joseph in the land of Egypt. Asenath daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore them to him. The sons of Benjamin are Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Jerah, Naaman, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob, 14 in all. The son of Dan is Husham. The sons of Naphtali are Jaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shillem. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to his daughter Rachel, who bore these to Jacob, all the souls, 7. And all the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, who sprang from his loins, besides the wives of the sons of Jacob, even all the souls were 66. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in the land of Egypt, were 9 souls, all the souls of the house of Jacob who came with Joseph into Egypt, were 75 souls. And he sent Judah before him to Joseph, to meet him at the city of heroes, into the land of Rameses. And Joseph, having made ready his chariots, went up to meet Israel his father, at the city of heroes, and having appeared to him, fell on his neck, and wept with abundant weeping. And Israel said to Joseph, After this I will gladly die, since I have seen your face, for you are yet living. And Joseph said to his brothers, I will go and tell Pharaoh, and will say to him, My brothers, and my father's house, who were in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And the men are cattlemen, for they have been feeders of livestock, and they have brought with them their flocks, and their herds, and all their property. If Pharaoh call you, and say to you, What is your occupation? You will say, We your servants are cattlemen from our youth until now, both we and our fathers, so that you may dwell in the land of Goshen of Arabia, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. Chapter 46. And Joseph came and told Pharaoh, saying, My father, and my brothers, and their cattle, and their oxen, and all their belongings, have come out of the land of Canaan, and, behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took of his brothers 5 men, and set them before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to the brothers of Joseph, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to sojourn in the land, for there is no pasture for the flocks of your servants, for the famine has prevailed in the land of Canaan. Please allow us to dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Let them dwell in the land of Goshen, and if you know that there are among them able men, make them overseers of my cattle. So Jacob and his sons came into Egypt to Joseph, and Pharaoh king of Egypt heard of it. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. Behold, the land of Egypt is before you, settle your father and your brothers in the best land. And Joseph brought in Jacob his father, and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, How many are the years of the days of your life? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my life where I traveled are 130 years, few and evil have been the days of the years of my life. They have not attained to the days of the life of my fathers in the days that they lived. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and departed from him. And Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and gave them property in the land of Egypt, in the best land, in the land of Rameses, as Pharaoh commanded. And Joseph gave food to his father, and his brothers, and to all the house of his father, corn for each person. And there was no corn in all the land, for the famine prevailed greatly, and the land of Egypt, and the land of Canaan, fainted for the famine. And Joseph gathered all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan in return for the corn which they bought, and he distributed corn to them, and Joseph brought all the money into the house of Pharaoh. When all the money was gone from of the land of Egypt and gone from the land of Canaan, then all the Egyptians came to Joseph, saying, Give us bread, and why do we die in your presence? For our money is spent. And Joseph said to them, Bring your cattle, and I will give you bread for your cattle, if your money is spent. And they brought their cattle to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in return for their horses, and for their sheep, and for their oxen, and for their donkeys. Joseph maintained them with bread for all their cattle in that year. And that year passed, and they came to him in the second year, and said to him, Must we then be consumed from before our Lord? For if our money is gone, and our possessions and our cattle brought to you our Lord, and we have nothing left before our Lord more than our own bodies and our land, we are indeed destitute. In order that we do not die before you, and the land be made desolate, buy us and our land for bread, so that we and our land will be servants to Pharaoh. Give seed that we may sow, and live and not die, so our land will not be made desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of the Egyptians for Pharaoh, because the Egyptians sold their land to Pharaoh, since the famine prevailed against them, and the land became Pharaoh's. And he brought the people into bondage for servants from one extremity of Egypt to the other, except only the land of the priests. Joseph did not buy this, for Pharaoh gave a portion as a gift to the priests, and they ate their portion which Pharaoh gave them, therefore they did not sell their land. And Joseph said to all the Egyptians, Behold, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Now, you take seed and sow the land. When there will be the fruits of it, you will give the 5th part to Pharaoh, and the 4 remaining parts will be for yourselves and for seed to sow in the fields, and for food for you and all that are in your houses. And they said, You have saved us, we have found favor before our Lord, and we will be servants to Pharaoh. And Joseph appointed it to them for an ordinance until this day, to reserve a 5th part for Pharaoh, on the land of Egypt, only except the land of the priests, that was not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they gained property there, and they increased and multiplied very greatly. And Jacob survived 17 years in the land of Egypt, and Jacob's days of the years of his life were 147 years. And the days of Israel drew close for him to die. And he called his son Joseph, and said to him, If I have found favor before you, put your hand under my thigh, and you will execute mercy and truth toward me, so as not to bury me in Egypt. But I will sleep with my fathers, and you will carry me up out of Egypt, and bury me in their tomb. And he said, I will do according to your word. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel did obeisance, leaning on the top of his staff. Chapter 47. And it came to pass after these things, that it was reported to Joseph, Behold, your father is ill. So he took his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, to Jacob. And it was reported to Jacob, saying, Behold, your son Joseph cometh to you. And Israel, having strengthened himself, sat upon the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, My God appeared to me in Luz, in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said to me, Behold, I will increase you, and multiply you, and will make of you multitudes of Gentiles, and I will give this land to you and to your seed after you, for an everlasting possession. Now then your 2 sons, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine, Ephraim and Manasseh, just as Reuben and Simeon they will be mine. And the children which you will produce hereafter will be named with their brothers, they will be named for their inheritances. And as for me, when I came out of Mesopotamia of Syria, Rachel your mother died in the land of Canaan. As I drew close to the horse course of Chebrath of the land of Canaan, on the way to Ephrath, I buried her along the road of the course, this is Bethlehem. And when Israel saw the sons of Joseph, he said, Who are these to you? And Joseph said to his father, They are my sons, whom God gave me here. And Jacob said, Bring them to me, that I may bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim through age, he could not see well, and he brought them near, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, Behold, I have not been deprived of seeing your face, and lo, God has shown me your seed also. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and they did obeisance to him, with their face to the ground. And Joseph took his 2 sons, both Ephraim in his right hand, but on the left of Israel, and Manasseh on his left hand, but on the right of Israel, and brought them near to him. But Israel, having stretched out his right hand, laid it on the head of Ephraim, although he was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, guiding his hands knowingly. And he blessed Joseph and said, "The God in whose sight my fathers were well-pleasing, even Abraham and Isaac, the God who continues to feed me from my youth until this day, the angel who delivers me from all evils, bless these boys, and my name will be called upon them. And the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them be increased to a great multitude on the earth." And Joseph, having seen that his father put his right hand on the head of Ephraim, seemed wrong to him, and Joseph took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, father, for this is the firstborn, lay your right hand upon his head." He would not, but said, "I know it, son, I know it, he also will be a people, and he will be exalted, but his younger brother will be greater than he, and his seed will become a multitude of Gentiles." And he blessed them that day, saying, "In you will Israel be blessed," saying, "God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh." And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, "Behold, I die, and God will be with you, and restore you to the land of your fathers. And I give to you one portion above your brothers, which I took out of the hand of the Amorites with my sword and bow." Chapter 48. And Jacob called his sons, and said, "Assemble yourselves, that I may tell you what will happen to you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear me, sons of Jacob, hear Israel, hear your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, you my strength, and the first of my children, hard to be endured, hard and self-willed. You were as destructive as water, you burst out with violence, for you went up on the bed of your father, then you defile my couch that you went upon. Simeon and Levi brothers accomplish injustice in their violent cruelty. Let not my soul come into their counsel, nor let my inward parts contend in their conspiracy, for in their wrath they slew men, and for pleasure they hamstring a bull. Cursed be their wrath, for it is self-willed, and their anger, for it is sadistic. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brothers have praised you, and your hands will be on the back of your enemies, your father's sons will do you obeisance. Judah is a lion's whelp. From a sprout, my son, you are grown up, crouching in wait like a lion, and as a cub, who will stir him up? A ruler will not depart from Judah, nor a leader from his loins, until there come the things stored up for him, and he is the hope of nations. Tying his foal to the grapevine, and the foal of his donkey to the branch, he will wash his robe in wine, and his garment in the blood of grapes. His eyes are joyful without wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun will dwell on the coast, and he will be a haven of ships, and will extend to Sidon. Issachar has desired that which is good, resting between the inheritances. And having seen the resting place, that it was good, and the land, that it was fertile, he subjected his shoulder to labor, and became a farmer. Dan will judge his people, as one of the tribes in Israel. And let Dan be a serpent in the way, hampering the path, biting the heel of the horse, so that the rider falls backward, waiting for the salvation of Yahuwah. Gad, a marauding troop will plunder him, but he will attack them at their feet. Asher, his bread will be plentiful, and he will give delicacies to princes. Naphtali is a branching trunk, giving beauty of its fruit. Joseph is a son increased, my dearly loved son is fruitful, my youngest son, turn to me. The archers have sorely grieved him, shot at him, and persecute him. Their bow and arrows were fiercely consumed, and the sinews of their arms were slackened by the hand of the mighty one of Jacob. There is he that strengthened Israel, the God of your father, and my God helped you, and he blessed you with the blessing of heaven from above, and the blessing of the earth possessing all things. Because of the blessing of the breasts and of the womb, the blessings of your father and your mother he excelled in strength over the blessing of the lasting mountains, and beyond the blessings of the everlasting hills. They will be upon the head of Joseph, and upon the head of the brothers of whom he took the lead. Benjamin, as a ravening wolf, will eat in the morning, and at evening he shares food. All these are the 12 sons of Jacob, and their father spoke these words to them, and he blessed them, he blessed each of them according to his blessing. And he said to them, I am added to my people, you will bury me with my fathers in the cave, which is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the double cave which is opposite Mamre, in the land of Canaan, the cave which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite, for a possession of a tomb. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his woman, there they buried Isaac, and Rebekah his woman, there they buried Leah, in the portion of the field, and of the cave, that was in it, purchased of the sons of Heth. And Jacob ceased giving charges to his sons, and having lifted up his feet on the bed, he died, and was gathered to his people. Chapter 49. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept on him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants the embalmers to embalm his father, and the embalmers embalmed Israel. And they took 40 days for the needed days to embalming him, and Egypt mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the princes of Pharaoh, saying, If I have found favor in your sight, speak in the ears of Pharaoh concerning me, saying, My father instructed me, saying, In the tomb which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan, there you will bury me. Now then I will go up, and bury my father, and return again. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Go up, bury your father, as he constrained you to swear. So Joseph went up to bury his father, and all the servants of Pharaoh went up with him, and the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. And all the household of Joseph, his brothers, all the house of his father, his kindred, and they left behind the sheep, and the oxen in the land of Goshen. And there also went up with him chariots and horsemen, and there was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and they bewailed him with a great and very sore lamentation, and he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And the inhabitants of the land of Canaan saw the mourning at the floor of Atad, and said, This is a great mourning to the Egyptians. Therefore he called its name, the mourning of Egypt, which is beyond Jordan. And thus his sons did for him. So his sons carried him up into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the double cave, which cave Abraham bought with the field for a burial site, of Ephron the Hittite, before Mamre. And Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his brothers, and those that had gone up with him to bury his father. And when the brothers of Joseph saw that their father was dead, they said, Let us take notice, if perhaps at any time Joseph remember evil against us, and recompense to us all the evils which we have done against him. And they came to Joseph, and said, Your father adjured us before his death, saying, Thus say you to Joseph, Forgive them their injustice and their sin, forasmuch as they have done you evil, and now pardon the injustice of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept, while they spoke to him. And they came to him and said, We these persons are your servants. And Joseph said to them, Fear not, for I am God's servant. You took counsel against me for evil, but God took counsel for me for good, that the result might be as it is today, and much people might be fed. And he said to them, Fear not, I will maintain you, and your families. And he comforted them, and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his brothers, and all the family of his father, and Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw the children of Ephraim to the 3rd generation, and also the sons of Machir, the son of Manasseh, who were raised during Joseph's lifetime. And Joseph spoke to his brothers, saying, I die, and God will surely visit you, and will bring you out of this land to the land concerning that which God swore to our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph directed the sons of Israel, saying, At the visitation with which God will visit you, then you will carry up my bones with you. And Joseph died, aged 110 years, and they prepared his corpse, and put him in a coffin in Egypt.